Everything's jacked up. Give me just a second. Let's try that again.
Save the full screen.
Well, I say every day it's a getting closer to taking a bath with my fucking toaster.
Greetings, salutations, and welcome to the 68th episode of Screaming Into the Void. My name is Samuel the Infamous, and as you can see, I'm the only one who's made it so far. We are expecting to have Legion talk, possibly some other people drop in. It's just one of those things. Sometimes everybody's busy, so you get me today. Clue, I see you in the chat. I see you there. You have the link. Speaking of the chat, let's say hello to you guys. Hi, Kohai, good to see you. She says she won't make it today, unfortunately, but she'd stop by. I see Clifton 3D in the chat. Hail, brother. There you are, Clue. Why aren't you up here? So we I had some other things that we were going to talk about today, and maybe we'll get to them, maybe we won't. But some breaking news this morning. Israel has declared war on Gaza. That's right. Israel has declared war, officially, on Gaza. Now, to be fair, from what I understand, not Gaza. Let me rephrase that. Hamas provoked this. Hamas, of course, being the predominantly ruling body of Palestine, of the Gaza Strip. And let's be real, they're not great. They're not good actors. Palestinians I ain't got no issue with. Hamas, on the other hand, I mean, they're funded by Iran. It's a whole mess. They've been doing all kinds of bad shit for a long time. What I understand, they were sort of a militant extremist spinoff of the Muslim Brotherhood that sprung up in the 80s. It's a whole thing. So, hey, Bernie, good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, Personally, in my humble opinion, and this is probably going to get me in trouble with YouTube, this particular opinion, and probably with other people as well. I've been hearing about Palestine and Israel killing each other, fighting over a strip of barren desert in the middle of nowhere my entire life. I am sick of it. I am sick to death of hearing about this shit. I know technically that Israel is an ally of the U.S., but it's not that cut and dried. We jump when they say jump, but they don't come to our aid ever. And I'm sick of it. I think the U.S. should cut ties with that whole region. Not a fight. So, but we are likely going to get drawn in because of longstanding peace agreements, treaties, and such. I would say that it's probably only a matter of time, short time even, before China invades Taiwan, which is going to, divert U.S. resources and military personnel in that direction. We're already spending a ton of money providing funding and weaponry and equipment to Ukraine right now. It's starting to feel a little bit like there's a coordinated effort to weaken the U.S. So it's just it's a shit show. And I mean, all of this sort of happening around the same time. I mean, the Ukraine thing's been kind of off and on since, Obama era. Uh, and for those of you out there who think that when I say we should get the fuck out of Ukraine, that I'm talking about getting, like siding with Putin, I'm not. Putin's not a good guy either. It's possible for two people on opposite sides of an issue to both be douchebags. For two groups to both be in the wrong. Sometimes there is no good guy. And I think that's one of those cases. And I don't think that it's something that we should have ever gotten involved in. You know, I know we're all tied up with NATO and the UN and all that shit, which frankly we need to pull out of there too. We need to cut ties with those bastards. I mean, they're not funding shit. That's all of us. It's on us. But as far as maintaining a World War II era buffer between the former Soviet Union and the NATO states, that's not our fucking problem. It's just not. You know, um, so I've been long a proponent for at least limited isolationism. You know, I think that we need to put our country first, and by first I mean above all others. And I would say that no matter what country I was from, frankly, I think each nation needs to put its own people and its own needs above everybody else's. I think that's the only way that a nation survives. Right now, we're pouring funding and resources and everything that we have into other people's wars, and it's going to get worse. So, um, hey, Troy, good to see you. I don't feel a need for buff. Yeah, yeah, that's fair, and I agree with you. I think that NATO is. I mean, NATO is the military arm of the WEF. Let's be real. I would have said the UN, but the UN are a bunch of puppets, man. you know. So, and yeah, like that's not really our problem. We have within the borders of our nation, right? You don't even have to include necessarily Alaska and Hawaii, although Alaska has abundant resources as well. Hawaii, not so much. Um, but within the lower 48, even we have enough resources to keep ourselves going indefinitely. We have enough space to expand with population for a long, long, long time, right? And we have the know-how, or at least we did, and the ingenuity to build ourselves up to to actually be the best nation ever that we claim that we are. We don't need anybody else. We don't need international trade. We don't need international relations. We certainly don't need to be stepping in anybody else's international shit. You know, um, I think that the wall is a great idea, but I think we need to build one on the north too. You know, um, and just lock everybody out and let them wonder what we're up to. We're in a very defensible position geographically. I mean, we've got two major oceans on either side of us, right? South of us is Central America. North of us is Canada. And yes, while we could be conceivably invaded from those locations, number one, I ain't worried about the fucking Canadians and the Mexicans. you know, the Mexican military does not have. Yeah, it's not much of a military to speak of, and the Canadians. I mean, they might have been a formidable fighting force, during the Second World War, but they've been so weakened by commie ideals. Um, they're just not up to par, and we've advanced due to the Cold War. Even we've advanced so much further and faster than they did that they wouldn't stand a chance in the first place. And I'm not saying that we should go to war with Canada. I'm just saying that I wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for another enemy state to use Canada as a staging ground, and which actually, if I were them, that's probably where I would start. You know, but we're very geographically protected. Any kind of land invasion into the U.S., there's so much space in this country that it would be difficult to do that undetected. I mean, unless you say you send, 500,000 people a day through an unguarded border in the South, and put them in key positions in key cities. I mean, that would be possible, I suppose. But gosh, nothing like that could ever happen. you know? Um, Clifton. So the woke part of the military is mostly in key political positions, within Washington and whatnot. That a lot of that stuff that you're seeing is really just a handful of people. There are other things going on and other parts of the military. Your soldiers on the ground, for example. Yes, we got a number of people who get filmed, and they show those films all over. And it does make us look weak, but I don't believe that we are actually that weak. And technologically speaking, we're probably still superior to everybody else, you know. And I mean, we've got shit that even we don't like. We the people don't know about, you know. So I mean, yeah, if it came down to it, I think that in a straight up fight, we'd probably win one on one against pretty much anybody in the world, long term. Um, Particularly if they are invading on our soil, because you're also not taking into account the sheer number of armed veterans in this country. There are more armed veterans in this country than there are in most standing militaries in the world. And these aren't even active duty. These are just retirees or, what have yous who are, sick of the way things are going, who would stand up in a heartbeat to defend their country. You know, People who would organize their neighborhoods into effective fighting forces. I don't think that invading the U.S. would end well for pretty much anybody. So, yeah, it's just yes, some of it, Troy, some of it is just I hang out with a lot of veterans, and they are very careful about not saying things about what they know. And that's probably smart for a couple of reasons, not least of which is national security, and also keeping themselves alive. Because start spilling secrets like that. I mean, that's an executable offense. So it's capital offense. So yeah, they obviously aren't spilling anything specific or anything like that. But I've heard rumors, hints, and such from reliable sources that yeah, we have a few surprises in store for anybody who thinks they can take us. China, I'm looking at you. The one thing that China has that we don't is sheer numbers of active duty, right? So they have a standing army ready to go at any time of about 2 million men. I mean, that's huge, right? And the only way that we'd be able to knock all of them out is if they located them all in the same place and we just nuked it. But that's like China's not that stupid. They're not going to do that. you know. So and they know that physically with bodies they outnumber the shit out of us. But most of their military technology they either got from backroom deals with people on our side of the fence, Bill Clinton, or they traded with the Iranians or the Russians or what have yous, and so they're dealing with, like, in a lot of cases, um, you know, retro backwards engineered or modified versions of Soviet weaponry from the 60s. I'm not super worried about China. So yeah, almost every leap they've made technologically speaking is either stolen or bought from someone else. So, hey, Shadow, welcome to the show.
Hey man, how you doing? I mean, aside
Uh,
from the whole situation in Israel,
yeah, it's the only reason I'm even concerned about it is because we're going to get drawn in, whether I want to or not.
yeah, that's
Otherwise, I wouldn't give a fuck because, like, people have been offing each other in the Middle East for 5,000 years. They ain't going to stop now.
no, absolutely. It's a fustercluck. I got home like 5 minutes ago. I had to take care of a few things. Was glancing at some articles while I could just to get caught up to date. I couldn't have my phone out at work, so I only know what we knew like this morning, which is that Israel was attacked by Hamas. I read some stuff about like Egypt, Lebanon, and Syria mobilizing, but I haven't been able to find anything about that. So my guess is it was just some like
dude,
gossip articles or something.
It's like, okay, so you're relatively young, so you probably don't remember the last 17 times something like this has happened. Uh, every time Israel starts some shit with Palestine, you hear shit out of Israel and Lebanon and Syria, especially Syria
Yeah,
or Egypt
okay.
rather, and Syria, because so this is going to come off a little bigoted, but Syrians love killing.
Yeah.
That's kind of their whole thing. Like the rest of the Middle East hates those guys because when they're not fighting someone else, they're killing each other, and they have been
Yeah,
doing so for thousands of years.
Yeah, the Syrian, their military is heavily, or at least the elites of their military is like the Bedouins, right? Or am I thinking of something else?
The where are you getting Bedouins from?
Apparently, like the Bedouin tribes, like they make up like elites or like household guards or something for one of the ruling classes in the Middle East, I think.
I mean, maybe some of them, but Bedouins are still there. Most of them are still operating very nomadically on their own. They're more
Right.
or less left alone by the rest of the Arabs because they're really their own thing. Them and the Tuaregs. So I don't know exactly what
Okay.
the genetic makeup of that sort of thing is. I don't see how that matters a whole lot.
Right. Well, I mean, it
But
doesn't specific. I mean, like if you're like historically speaking, nomadic tribes tend to have a lot more like violent young men than other groups. I mean, if you look at like the Turks, the Huns, the Mongols, etc. So that might be why if their military is mostly people from a culture where violence is like accepted, that might explain why they're more willing to engage in violence. Just off of like just a quick like random glance. I'm not saying that is the reason because I haven't. The Bedouin fact is just something I've heard before, and I'm currently trying to verify it.
I don't know. I couldn't speak to that because people don't talk about the Bedouins because honestly, they don't really get involved with, like as a people, they don't really get involved with much of anything outside of their own concerns. The Syrians, on the other hand, who are descended from the Assyrians, have been a warlike tribe since there have been tribes.
Right.
They're a they've always been at war with somebody. Hell, in my lifetime alone, they've had at least 2 civil wars. So they're every single time shit gets started in their region of the world, they're like, "Ooh, we want in." And yes, they admittedly and openly hate Israel. Most of the Arab states do. I think the only one that doesn't really openly speak about just utterly destroying Israel and pushing all of the Israelis into the sea, and that's actually how they put that, is Jordan, and Jordan's not particularly friendly to them either.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense, kind of doesn't. I mean, not doesn't, kind of doesn't. It just makes sense.
Yeah. So
it's a foreign entity enforced upon them by the Western world, and unlike other foreign entities, they don't exactly have the bite to completely uproot them.
Sure, but yeah, no. As far as like the Arabs are still pissed about Israel being a thing.
Yeah,
I can imagine. They were unhappy with it because the fact of the matter was after the diaspora, right? The Israelites, back when they were called ites and not e's, were scattered across the earth, right? And their country, Israel, was no more. It was destroyed and it was subsumed, and what was left was taken by the surrounding nations and tribes, and it became Arab land, and had been for a very, very long time until the UN granted Israel back to Israelis from all over the world in the middle of the last century.
Yeah.
So that wound is still fresh for people, and that's part of the reason that Palestine is so pissed about it, is because they were the majority of the occupying people in that area.
Yeah, and then like the spilling of blood between all the sides doesn't exactly make that wound easy to heal.
Right. Well, they also don't talk about some of the Palestinians were occupying peoples. Palestinians, a lot of them were descended from people who were basically herded by other Arab states, particularly Saudi Arabia and Iran and Syria, into invading and attempting to destroy Israel when it first became a thing, in the last century.
Yeah, I think I remember reading about that.
Yeah, so some of them are leftovers from that, and the reason that they're there is because they were unwanted in those other countries as well. So they got duped into saying, "Hey, if you go kill these guys, you can have their land." And as it turns out, Israelis aren't pushovers.
I mean, that if anyone bothers reading about like their history, it's not surprising. Like them and the Armenians have been around since before the Bronze Age, and they'll be still around by the time names like Saxon and Han don't exist anymore.
Yeah. So it's just it is what it is. But and there's a lot of bad blood there too, because even when the Israelis weren't a thing, when Israel wasn't the thing, it's not like the Arabs typically were at peace with each other. I mean, the Sunni and the Shiite Muslims have been killing each other for fucking 700 years.
Yeah.
Or more. It's they're always looking for a reason to kill somebody. And I realize how bigoted I'm coming off right about now, but look at the goddamn history.
You're not like you're not. It's just a fact. Like we go back like 1,000 years, 2,000 years. We could be some like Islamic Caliphate nobles talking to the plebeians about how those Europeans are so savage, killing each other over tracts of land in the name of some lord this or some queen that. Like what's happening in the Middle East happened in Europe, is what the Middle Ages was in Europe. It's what happened during the Warring States period of China. Like every civilization, people don't like talking about like cyclical cycles and stuff like that, but that is the case. You have divided states that unify, and then that empire collapses into dividing states, and then that unifies over a period of time. The Middle East is just in the middle of that state, and the reason why it's as bad as it is the same reason medieval Europe would be as bad as it is if you gave a bunch of knights AK-47s. It would be the exact same situation then, except it would be a lot less hot. It would just be colder.
Yeah. So I don't know. My biggest concern though right now isn't Israel. I don't give a fuck about Israel. As far as their geopolitical status, as far as their getting into it with the Palestinians again, or anybody else again. No, we don't. We're already pouring way too much money, resources, and equipment into another proxy war that we shouldn't be fucking involved with either. And we're a step away from China invading Taiwan, which is going to weaken and divide and distract us further.
Yeah. I remember, I mean, that's like, I said this a few months back. Now, granted, I wasn't predicting Israel was going to happen. I predicted Iran, but like something in the Ukraine, something in the Middle East, something in Africa, which I'm guessing is Niger, but that may end up not being the case because apparently that's chilling out. And then something in Latin America, or technically North America if you count the cartels. Like,
I think you're referring to Nigeria in Africa, not Niger.
No, wasn't it Niger the one that had the coup?
I'm pretty sure it was Nigeria, but I could be wrong.
Let me Google that.
It does. Yeah, I mean, Larry's got all the information on that. He's been tracking that.
Gotcha. Yeah, it was Niger.
Oh, fair enough. Man, did I pronounce that country's name wrong when I was a kid?
I mean, doesn't really matter. It's a former French protectorate. Like that's basically also Nigeria. You could change them up and basically the same thing happening.
Mm-hmm. Troy, you're absolutely right. Actually, Troy, if you're free, would you be interested in coming up here to talk about this with us? Let me know in the chat, and I'll if you are, I'll throw you a link.
Yeah, Sam wants anyone else but the kid.
No, that's not what I said. I actually wanted a bunch of perspectives on this. I wanted there's a bunch of people who have this link, but and you
Yeah.
were included in that.
Yeah, I know.
Don't make me break out the cactus meme.
Please don't. No, I was just making a joke because yeah, I mean, I'm very academically, I know a lot of shit, but I also don't really have like, I mean, like you said, this apparently has happened a lot in history, and I don't really have that like context to draw upon. You know,
Just in my lifetime. Just in
yeah,
my lifetime.
just in your lifetime.
It's
One piece of
crazy.
information I'm still trying to verify, but I'm only getting CNN articles about it, so I don't really trust it. Is the fact that apparently the Iron Dome was like targeted, and that's why it didn't work, or at least didn't work as well as it's supposed to be. I imagine Hamas is saying a bunch of shit, and Israel is throwing a lot of shit out there, so we won't really know what's going on with that for another few days. But from the absolute worst case situation that I heard was that there was, and again, I don't have any of this verified, so don't be spreading this because it may be fake news. There was a after the Israeli general was grabbed, there was a coordinated like attack, possibly suicide bombings of the like nerve system of the Iron Dome, and that's why the missile attacks were more brutal this time around. I've also heard that it was a mechanical failure, or that it didn't even that it just happened to be a margin of error that was higher than normal. Again, we're in the early instance of this conflict, so we won't really know anything too much. Hey Troy, how you doing?
How you doing? Long time no see. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too,
Yeah.
man. Just got off work.
And jumped.
I don't know why Sam is muted, and it scares me.
Yeah, in the middle of a sentence. That's odd.
Oh, I kicked my mic connection.
Well, you kick your mic. Your mic's gonna respond in kind.
Not the mic itself, just the USB port.
I like that. I like the Clue Channel says, Troy, it's a party now. Well, it's still the weekend, so I feel justified in partying.
Yeah.
So
I can't party though.
What do you got? What's your take on the current situation, Troy?
I don't believe in coincidence, and I think Shadow was actually laying it out pretty well. When you got a bunch of this stuff happening, it seems like all at once. Not to mention the stuff we've seen going on worldwide since 2019. You go, come on. You don't have to be a conspiracy theorist to see a conspiracy happening here,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, and again, a lot of people get mad at me when I use history and historical cycles, but I've been learning about the Peloponnesian War recently.
Yeah.
And there is actually a scary amount of similarity between that war and what may end up being called World War III, being a dominant power that is a naval power that has a league of alliances and vassal states that it says are equal, but it actually uses to enhance its own power, putting bases and armies across the world and using its wealth to enhance its own civilization, being caught up in various quote-unquote revolts and coups and peacekeeping missions across the Mediterranean, all the while the land-based martial power that is very, very, very authoritarian, Laconia, Sparta, finally pulls the trigger, and you get the Peloponnesian War. Now, I'm still learning about that war, so I can't really compare it too specifically, but, humans, we don't invent new things. We just repeat what has happened in the past.
We don't learn either.
Well, yeah, no, we don't. I mean, yeah.
It doesn't take a great deal of wisdom to realize, that many of the truisms we've heard are accurate. Past is prologue. As Santayana said, those who will not learn from the past are destined to repeat it. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. All of these sayings are true because anybody who has studied history sees the cycles happening. It's just like watching two trains on the same track flying at each other, watching boulders falling down a mountain. You can predict what's going to happen because you can see it happening in real time.
Kid, is your camera like having a retarded
No,
scene or something?
I like having my camera on just so like people can apply my face to my opinions. It's just my window hates me, And so half of my
Bad
face
lighting.
is like a freaking billboard at midnight. So I'm like turning it on and off frequently just to see. I could probably just use recording software now that I'm thinking about it instead of
or
messing with the stream.
the photo app on your phone.
Yeah, I could also do that. I am an idiot.
So hey,
Hey.
Ryan, welcome.
Hey, what's going on?
Talking about the next stage of World War III.
I say, turn all those camel humping fuckers into beaded glass.
Now that might be considered racist. Citing history, not, but that might be.
Yeah, I mean, if we could apply that to Azerbaijan and save some of the Armenians, I'm down.
Well, yeah.
I mean, for those who don't really know what's going on there, Armenia, a country that's got a history of being oppressed by the Turks in a very bad way, has been left out to dry by its ally Russia and currently is being occupied by Azerbaijan.
Man, the Turks didn't oppress Armenia. They tried to wipe them off the face of the earth. There is a subtle difference.
Okay, look, you say tomato, I say pasta sauce. Same thing at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, it is in degrees. And, I mean, look what you just said about Russia. Look at it from Russia's point of view. It's like, yeah, but we got our own things to deal with. You never, never, never trust your safety to someone else, ever. It's kind of why we have a Second Amendment, by the way, but that's another
Well, it's also like they didn't necessarily completely rely on Russia. Like in regards to conventional warfare, they had like a decent enough defense when they were invaded by Azerbaijan. They were entrenched in mountains. They had a decent enough, not an amazing air force, but a decent enough air force. They had a decent armored corps. Like their military was not US or Ukraine levels, but for what Azerbaijan was, they theoretically should have been able to handle this. I've talked about this conflict a lot whenever talking about World War III, but the reason they got handed to so badly was Azerbaijan had Turkey in their corner, who cleared the skies, and then you also had Azerbaijan made use of drones. They were able to basically use UAVs to identify hard targets such as tanks or bunkers, and then basically sent in a couple $100 drone to bomb that position. And then the infantry just got mopped up by tanks and stuff. Sorry, someone's calling me. I gotta take this.
Well, no, I just have to give kudos to Barnaby there. The Imodium Q-36 space modulator has been deployed. Where's the kaboom? Where is my kaboom? You stole my Imodium Q space modulator.
Yeah. Ryan, I take it you heard about the events unfolding this morning on the other side of the world where it's sandy and hot.
Yeah, I did hear about the events unfolding. The reason my stance right now is turn them into beaded glass is because the video that's making the rounds on Twitter for the last hour of the 30-year-old girl in the back of the truck. Yeah.
Are you Ryan? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. What's up?
I was going to ask you. You predicting another 7-day war here?
That's not going to last 7 days because I hope Israel turns them into beaded glass.
Yeah, possibly.
These people hate you, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
All of these people hate you. Fuck them.
Yeah. I'm not disagreeing with you.
If it's me turn into ash or them as ash, they're gone. See ya.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, I draw the line, and I draw the line really, like, I'm so, of course, Twitter, this is what Twitter does, but you know what? If you want to kill, soldiers want to kill each other, that's perfectly fine. When you start killing innocent people,
civilians,
I have a massive issue with it.
I
have the biggest issue when you start killing women and children.
Yeah.
And then dragging their bodies around on display, praising God. Just for the record, God's sending your ass someplace too, pal. So just get ready for that.
I was going to ask if you were quoting that video, and yeah, you're quoting that. That was fucked.
Yeah,
it's beyond fucked up, and I literally saw it like 20 minutes ago. So I'm literally livid because these people fucking hate every single one of our guts around the world. If you are not them, they hate you.
Yep.
The problem is, I do see the because of the administration that we have, we won't be able to just sit back and say, well, boys will be boys and let it happen. They're going to drag us into that too. If ICBMs start flying, we got to press our buttons. We just have to. We don't have a choice in the matter because
Well, that's the thing.
treaties or some shit. We certainly didn't learn from World War I, World War II, and every other thing since then.
Well, that's the thing, Troy, is we're getting dragged into this one way or the other, whether ICBMs start flying or not, because the
Yeah.
U.S. is Israel's bitch.
Well, we are completely incapable of not getting involved. Regardless of what the country is, we see an opportunity. We have to go, hitch up our trousers and be the world police,
Yeah.
And somehow this is going to translate to another reason to send more money to Ukraine. Honestly.
Actually, it is. I'm looking at articles right now, just trying to see if there's anything breaking. And there's literally an article, I think, who's it from? Where is it? That's basically like Israel's demand for artillery shells may limit the resources go. Oh, here we go. From Business Insider, Israel's war with Hamas could increase competition for the U.S. artillery shells needed by Ukraine.
See?
6 hours ago, they've already made this about Ukraine.
This is what I'm talking about. I am not Nostradamus, okay? I am not Uri Geller or anything like that, okay? I just look at history, I make a prediction, and in real time, frickin' it's true. I have people calling me all the time going, Troy was right again. I go, okay, what was Troy right again? I look at the email, I read an article, and I go, well, I don't remember ever making that prediction, but yeah, makes perfect sense.
I would like to point out the wording of that, though. It said that it could create competition for the need. That doesn't mean necessarily that they're not saying that we're sending more shit to Ukraine. They're saying that, they're going to divide our resources between two wars now, which is
Right, but
exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah,
by the
but
way.
think that through logically, though, Samael. What happens is you start with that, and then all the people flying the Ukrainian flag and all the senators with the Ukrainian flag in their lapel are going to say, well, we have to then justify sending more money to Ukraine before, the situation in Israel, starts demanding our resources.
Look, I would agree with you on that, except that they aren't even bothering to justify that anymore, and they haven't for months. They just keep sending shit.
Yeah, you're kind of not wrong there.
They don't need a justification to do this now. The people that we have in office are beholden to people behind the scenes in other countries. Unelected people are directing the U.S.
Yes
to deploy our resources and our fucking people and our money to a proxy war that has nothing to fucking do with us.
Yep. And the fact is, I blame every single one of our elected officials. I don't care what party you think you're voting for, and I don't care, what populist you think you've put in power. They've been there and they ain't done anything about it. In theory, every president can go in and say, you know what? It's time to wipe the board clean and put new people in. They never do.
Yeah, no, I remember people feel free to hate Putin. I don't really care. But Putin made I think it was when Biden was elected. He basically said something along the lines of, I've seen full American presidents. They talk the talk, they walk the walk, they get into the office, and then men in suits come in and tell them how it is.
Yeah.
And they play the bitch.
Yeah.
Something along those lines.
And if they don't, watch what happens to them. Look what happened to Nixon. Look what happened to Trump. I'm just saying.
Real quick, Andy ACAP, when I say unelected, I'm not talking about unelected people in Washington.
Yeah.
I'm talking about unelected people in the UN in Germany. I'm talking about WEF influence over world resources and world powers.
And how quick, our government is to, roll over and try to implement everything they want us to.
Yeah. So this is bad news for the U.S. one way or the other, and it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. Israel's a tiny fucking plot of land on the other side of the planet.
Yeah.
The only resources that they really have, as far as like natural resources and stuff, which is why we get involved in anything in the Middle East, by the way, are ruins, thousands of years old.
That's exactly it. You realize what you just said. It's still a religious war. Why so many so-called agnostic, if not atheist countries want to get involved in this makes zero sense to me.
personally, my bet is like it's guilt, effectively guilt for not stepping in sooner during like the Holocaust, and then because I mean most of like what we have done in the world nowadays, at least like the Western world, can be placed on the the mantle of guilt.
Kid. I'm gonna say something here that might get me in trouble. Actually, that card's been played too often.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's been played too often, but I feel like it's like think about it. The reason why we stuck around in Afghanistan was because we felt guilty that there were people there who didn't have democracy, liberty, that women didn't have rights. We got involved in Somalia because we felt guilty that we had food and that the people of Somalia didn't have food. We've felt guilty that we have oppressed various peoples throughout history, and so we throw money at them. We allow them to engage in activities that if it were a normal person doing that shit would be knocked down and told to shut the fuck up. That World War I and World War II has horribly traumatized the West, and that trauma was reinforced by the public education system, by modern media, being infected by these hippy-dippy Marxist feminist bullshit. And I'm sorry that I'm not being very eloquent, and I'm probably phrasing my position very badly, but the general point is that the last 100 years have broken the spirit of the West, and comparing that with like no good reason to believe why is this world broken without like a level of faith, because we have lost spirituality in this world. Between all these different factors, we look at the world and we just don't really have a fundamental grip beyond feeling guilty for what we have, and so we must respond.
Here's the thing, kid. Hold up. Here's the thing, kid. I think Clue's right. I don't think that that there has been a loss of spirituality in this world. I think that its focus has shifted.
Yeah. Within the last 30 years, I would agree.
I would say let's pull back and take an even wider view of this. It may even be simpler than this. We might be just looking at it a little too close. All this is just another excuse for war. It doesn't matter why. It doesn't matter what the motivation is. This is Orwell's perpetual war. Keep us at war. Keep the money flowing. Keep the companies that profit from war, well lubricated. Hey, Boosh, good to see you, man.
Also, I do want to piggyback real quick off of what Boosh said. Troy, it's damn good to see you again, man. It's been a while.
Yeah, we kind of did jump right into it. I wanted to compliment you on your dress. It goes really well with your eyes. Just wanted to...
Thank you very much, sir.
Hey, Nomi, welcome to the show. It's a little intense today.
Oh no, what's going on? What did I miss?
Well, you bring me in, it's gonna get intense, right?
Oh my god.
No, not in terms of like us specifically, but in terms of the topic. We're discussing the ramifications of the events in the Middle East.
World War III, end of civilization. Nothing big.
Not the end of civilization.
I just got off of work serving a bunch of people celebrating a pride parade. So tell me about it. What's going on?
Oh yeah, let's pull out from the local and look more global. Yeah.
Neither one of them's a friendly topic on YouTube or anywhere else. So I mean, we're kind of fucked. Damned if we do, damned if we don't.
Yeah.
I will say, being friendly to them, and I'm a friendly person. Anyone can approach me. I made $60 more just being friendly to them. It's like, hey guys, just adding pizzazz to your day. They're like, oh my god, yes, cool, and I got $60 off the table.
There you go.
Yeah.
The vast majority of obviously most people, they're just from that community, are free caring, fun loving people. They hold no ill will. It's all the weirdos and all the quote allies that are ones that put the bad taste in your mouth, right?
Yeah, right.
So
they might be putting a bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah. Fucker, shut up.
Yeah. People that have replaced religion with pride are the ones that typically act up the worst.
Yeah, particularly the ones that purport to be religious.
Yeah.
Hey, Clue.
What's going on?
Jesus Christ, I need to fucking turn Twitter off today. There's a video of another fucking woman being abducted by these weirdos.
It's for right now. It's probably best that we don't be looking at that, because you're not going to see anything but ugly shit for the next 48 hours.
I got how many messages I've typed and erased just because I don't want to get embroiled in it.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to find the videos right now because I want to because that's you can lie in an article.
Because you're a
you can't really
masochist.
lie in
I don't know.
Well, no, because I want the accurate information.
I will say that I will hang out as much as I can with you guys. I'm gonna meet with certain people that are close to me, and one of these individuals has intel of what's going on. If I'm assuming what you're talking about.
Ooh, juicy.
Yeah. So I'm gonna just chat with them. I'm just close with them and see what's really going on. I mean, well,
Awesome.
obviously, I do know what's going on. Like, I saw the news this morning, and it's terrible. But like getting more info, what we know, what the media is not telling us.
Right. Right now, we've been. I'm gonna use the word speculating very loosely here, but based on past occurrences and patterns, you know, and you know, we all know where this shit leads in the end. You know, so yeah,
Heated glass.
I'm actually curious. So the woman whose body has been paraded all over the fucking internet this morning, as if by, like, I get you want to get that news out there, but man, you people out there who keep sharing that, right? That's fucking disgraceful. It's dishonorable.
It is. This morning, my dad was begging me, like literally begging me. He's like, can't, because he knows I have a Twitter account. He's like, show me the videos of what the media is saying, of what they're saying. Is like, no, Dad, I am not going to show you those videos at the expense of someone's life. I am not. I've seen those videos. You have no business looking at those. I know it's the media. I know what's going on. For the respect of that woman, because I know what video you're talking about, Samuel. I'm not going to show it. I'm not going to repeat it. I'm not going to retweet it because I want that woman to be taken care of.
Right, and it brings up two things for me. The first being that, okay, so earlier this week there were a number of killings in this country that were all of you know, people on the left, and it just, like, that's never good. But the one in particular that comes to mind was I believe he was an outreach activist, and he was killed by a young man, stabbed and left in the street. And that video circulated so much that it didn't matter how many accounts I temporarily muted. It didn't matter what I did. It always cropped back up in my feed. And so I posted a comment on I think it was Lauren Chen's comment, and I was just like, you can't go one goddamn day on this app without watching someone die. You know, and the next thing I know, I had Sour Patch Lids, formerly of the Timcast, trying to fucking tell me to shut my goddamn gob over it.
Well, fuck her.
You know, and I'm like, no. She's like, well, nothing happens for like a minute in, and you don't have to. What? I was like, I can't fucking escape it. It's everywhere. First of all, and secondly, the fact that we keep sharing this stuff around, even when we're decrying it, we're showing the goddamn videos, right? Like that. Yeah. That there's something wrong with all of us. You know. And the other thing is that with this young woman, it's come out within the last like 2 hours, I think, that she was a German national.
Yeah.
I found that on.
She was there for like a music festival or something like that.
Yeah. I am curious as to whether or not Germany is going to do a goddamn thing about it.
Absolutely.
I'd say turn them into bead of glass.
No, they're gonna do fuck all, just because like the German people are broken, and even if they weren't, they try. Like, look what happened when I think it was like a man in Sweden, he burned a copy of the Quran. Look how fucking quick Sweden bent the knee because some fuckers in a different country attacked their embassy. Like, the spirit of the European people, and I'll apply that to the American people as well, is fucking broken. So Germany's gonna sit there and watch like a good little child, and if they actually stand up and do something about it, I will genuinely be impressed and will sing the praises of Germany. At least modern Germany, but I doubt they'll do it, because like the number of videos I've seen of people of this kind of dissent and this kind of opinion, the people that are attacking Israel, there are plenty of videos of people who are like that going to World War II memorials and cheering for Hitler, cheering for the SS, cheering for the Nazis, and you never see videos of them being confronted, never see videos of them being arrested or dealt with, even though apparently they hate speech. They'll jail people for hate speech, but never those people.
And if you say anything about it on social media, you'll have the colorful-haired wackos coming out saying, "Oh yeah, show me the proof, show me the proof, show me the proof."
Yeah, which I think is hilarious, because like the different, like the LGBT movement, and I mean they're starting to learn on because like Muslim parents don't fuck around with this pride shit in schools. Which group of people are more likely to take you to the top of a building and toss you off of it after setting you on fire? The West or people in the Middle East?
Yeah.
Well, they don't usually set you on fire first, otherwise
Middle
it
East,
ruins the
yep.
surprise.
And again, I'm sorry if I'm being very vitriol and very like not eloquently phrasing my
Motherfucker,
opinions.
you're
I like
tame
it.
compared to my attitude right now. I'll tell you right
I like
now.
it. I
Look,
like it.
it's a well-known fact that I associate with Arabs, right? Muslim Arabs. It's
Yeah.
also a lesser-known fact that I also associate with Jews, most of whom are not Israeli. They're Americans, but they're still Jewish. And that's a distinction that I would like to draw here. I know that the rest of the world is going to not draw that distinction, but there are Israeli citizens who are not Jewish, who are not of Jewish descent, but who have every right to call themselves Israeli as well. There are Muslims and there are Christians and there are even atheists who populate Jerusalem, who populate Tel Aviv.
Me as a living example. I am a Christian woman, but I am Jewish. So
Right. And that's something else that people need to understand too. And I know that it gets confused, but there is the Jewish ethnicity and then there is the Jewish religion, and they are not the same thing, although they are often present in the same person. But
there's Judaism, people who practice Judaism.
Yeah.
Then there are people that are born Jews.
So me being a Christian, because I am close with my Jewish heritage that I found out when I was like 21. There is oh my gosh, I can't think, Messianic Judaism. So that is the belief that Jesus did die on the cross while still practicing Torah.
Yeah, no, I before I found out that it was okay for Messianic Jews to eat bacon, I tricked one into eating bacon. Thinking I had gotten one over on.
Really make the left war is happening. No, just kidding.
And then later on I found out that they were cool with it, and I was like, well, that takes all the fun out of that. But all right.
I just picture the person going, "Wow, you're saying this wasn't bacon? It tastes just like bacon." Well, how do you know what bacon tastes like? I love bacon.
He didn't say a word about bacon, but he had 2 big helpings of my brother's chicken carbonara, which is excellent.
Yeah.
And the bacon is diced up so fine that it actually looks like little bits of mushroom.
Oh, okay.
So oh man, it's fantastic. But anyway, yeah, so me and my brother are sitting there just giggling to ourselves as he gets another bowl. And we're just like,
hey, what's so funny?
And like 2 years later, I find out no, Messianic Jews are okay with eating pork, and I'm like, oh, damn it.
Yeah.
See, you talking about that. I'm wondering how long it'll be until. Do you remember like when the war in Ukraine started? Like that video of Azov battalion members like dipping their bullets in pig fat. I wonder, and like everyone was like, "That's fucked. That's evil." I wonder how long it's going to be before that same video starts circulating and people start praising that as like either anti-Jewish or Palestinian sentiments, just because like Twitter is so damn fickle when it comes to picking a side.
Yeah.
You have to remember that the people responsible for this, they take divide and conquer as a life's plan, and that's what this is all about. Every time you look at a gender issue, a racial issue, religious countries, all of this stuff, they're just looking for. What'd you do? Pull the shade?
No, the shades are already down. It's just like there's one spot that I can't fix. That like when the sun is at the right angle, just turns me into a freaking billboard.
Not messing with you because you look good on camera. You're a good looking kid,
Thank
so
you.
I'm glad you should do that as often as you can. But yeah, it's how can we divide as much as possible to create as much strife as possible to initiate civil wars and wars between countries and just world wars, because that's how the power brokers rise.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Clue. So I want you guys to continue the conversation, but I just got the notification right now to meet my intelligence.
Yep.
So whatever information I get, I will gladly share it with y'all. But I do have to mosey out.
All right.
Okay.
As long as
know
you're
me.
not breaking a confidence or getting us
Yeah.
into like national security trouble, cool. But
I doubt it's gonna be security trouble. But yeah, let me see how much this is like. Yeah, I should know this, and you should probably kill me now. So if you don't hear from me in like 24 hours, you know what happened.
Understood.
indeed, indeed.
And it'll probably be Alec Baldwin's finger who did it.
Right.
You know
Alec Baldwin's
what?
finger. Hey,
Alec Baldwin's finger does not miss.
he does
No.
not miss.
He is the dead
No,
shot
it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
No, he doesn't. He's always on point. But with that being said, but thank you guys for like talking about this situation, what's going on. It does mean a lot to me. Because I am Jewish, because I found out when I was like a little bit older in life, but still young in life. Yeah, I don't condone what's happening right now. I want peace between both races, or I don't want to call races, but both parties. It is disheartening to see what's happening right now, but what I can only do is just put into prayer and then just see what I can do to help out where is needed. But yeah, I'm glad. I wish I could hang out more and talk more about this, but I got to go over some
No
drinks.
worries, Nomi.
Yes.
All
All right,
right,
kids.
all
Well,
right.
I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Yeah, have a good one, Nomi. We will talk soon. Her link to her channel is in the description below on my channel. I don't know, Brian. I assume that all that got mirrored over to yours too.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye. So, I don't necessarily want to say this to her face, but like I'm Native American, but I've got no association or connection with that culture beyond like genetics. So like I don't really have any skin in that game. I'm just saying.
Aw.
But I am curious as to see how this is going to go, because you're looking at a tiny nation state that is surrounded on all sides by enemies, some of whom are very powerful. And if the rest of the Arab world decides they're going to get their shit together and organize, they're going to wipe Israel off the face of the fucking earth. It doesn't matter how awesome Israel's military is. There's only so many of them.
Yeah. It'll come down to basically, are the Arabs that zealous to really push into that meat grinder, and are the Jews really?
We know the Persians are. We know for a fact that the Persians are. We know that the Syrians
right?
have. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just checking to make sure that like we're talking about the same people.
Iran is the country. Persians are the people.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just making sure that like I'm not.
Yeah. You can call them Iranians to their face and see what happens.
I would do that. I am that suicidal. I mean, stupid.
Yeah. But they're with Iranian and Saudi money, with the the warlike attitudes of the Syrians, if they could get the Shiites and the Sunni to put aside their differences with each other for 5 fucking minutes, Israel's done.
Yep.
And so of course the U.S. is going to jump into this.
Unless they get their pet attack eagle involved.
Well, that's it. Of course we are. Of course we're going to be involved. We're already involved. We're up to our fucking necks in Israel, and that's a problem for me.
Bush makes a great point. He said, what happened to those 2 peace treaties from 5 years ago? Oh, right. Someone got rid of them. That just made me realize something else. How disgustingly tragic it is that a change in power in the United States can have such a big impact on the Middle East. That's a problem. That's a problem more for them than for us, but it's still a problem for us as well.
It is. And Boa brings up, like they'll have their cities turned to glass by Israel's nuclear strike from the grave. Yeah, that's possible. That's absolutely possible. Mutually assured destruction is absolutely possible. But you're talking about a region of the world. The reason that hasn't happened between Russia and the U.S. for the last 70 fucking years is because neither one of us actually wants to die. Neither one of us deems destroying the other worth it.
But religious fanaticism changes that.
Yeah, we're talking about people who have no problem blowing themselves up to kill 70 people. So no, I'm not I'm not confident that that's enough to stop anything. You know, and also you're forgetting that Iran is also a nuclear power.
Yeah. And you don't even need to be a nuclear power to take out ICBMs. You just need, a fast enough missile, which if you're rich enough and have had the same attack eagle Israel's going to call in your pocket due to oil for a few decades now, you may have some toys that'll keep you safe as well.
Well, fast enough and targeting systems.
Well, yeah, that too. I'm not calling out Saudi Arabia. I'm just calling out Saudi Arabia.
I see where you're going with that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
which, by the way, another instance of the shift in power in the U.S. Remember when Biden went and crawled to the Saudis for them to give us oil? And
after he told them to go fuck themselves and we don't need OPEC? Yeah.
Right.
And, yeah. We need green energy. We need to be greener. A couple months later, hey, I'm gonna get on my knees. I borrowed some chapstick from my buddy Kevin Feige. And, yeah, can we? He showed me what he does with Chinese.
That's a good one.
Can I do this for you?
He stole that joke from Joker Voice.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
that's okay. It's a worthwhile joke. It needs to be shared.
In his defense, he did take it and change it. So I mean, can't
right. I was just saying, credit where it's due.
Yeah.
But kid, he didn't just say we need to be greener and then just politely cut ties. He told OPEC to get fucked.
Yep.
And then he came crawling back, and they were like, "No, dude, fuck you."
Yeah. I just feel like the current administration needs a frickin' lesson in economics 101. Just simple, basic freaking economics 101. Really.
Not really. I mean, the current administration has been one foot in the grave for the last 20 years. Look at the list of people that are currently in Congress.
Yeah.
And then look at the list of people who were in Congress in 1980. And then look at the pictures of the people that are currently in Congress. Half of them are there's one congresswoman, I think, who she had to sign something that basically said she does not have the right of attorney or something like that. She basically ceded autonomy to her kids.
Yeah.
Power of attorney, yeah. She basically ceded power to her kids, I believe, but she's still able to vote in Congress. She there are no term limits. There is no maximum age. You can literally be in Congress until you step into the freaking coffin and die.
Yep.
And we wonder why.
What Maxine's going to do.
Look at how many people we have in power in our country that are literally walking corpses. It's like that episode of Star Trek, right? Where you got the guy who's just a drooling puppet and someone else is running him.
Right.
Our president, I can go through the number of people in Congress. I mean,
all I'm going to say is
that was Dianne Feinstein, I think, and she passed away this week too.
Yeah, rest in peace.
She's probably still voting though.
Yeah, just not in
she's still voting.
Just not in Congress.
She's still voting.
Here's the thing about that, kid. So our anybody who served in the government gets their however many days or hours with the flags at half-mast across the nation and all that stuff as a sign of respect for their service.
Yeah.
But I think we need to amend that to people who are actually of service.
Yeah, good point.
Because you got people like Teddy Kennedy, who was in Congress for fucking 50 years, right? Mm-hmm. Outlived all of his siblings, by the way, and most of their children. And I personally, this is conspiracy theory hat time, I think he had something to do with that, right? Who was a fucking monster. And we spent a week and a half with our flags at half-mast as a nation mourning this dude who should have never been allowed that much power.
Actually, I'll add to your conspiracy theory, but I'll back it off a little bit. I don't think he had anything to do with it other than he kept his mouth shut when he was told to keep his mouth shut. I think that's possible. I think that whole Chappaquiddick thing was a shot across the bow at him saying, you want to follow them into the grave? Maybe you just stop. And he did. And he just sat and drank and sat on his hands. And as a thank you, he gets the accolades.
Yeah, here's the thing though, man, that doesn't make it any better.
True. No, you're absolutely right. I'm just saying that instead of actively being involved. He was passively involved. So, but you're right. The outcome is the same.
Yeah.
I mean-
So, like, and that's the thing is the only people who know exactly what happened at Chappaquiddick are all dead. Just putting that out there.
Good point.
So one way or the other, like, and you may be totally right, Troy. He may have been, they may have used that as a way to coerce him into cooperation and silence. That's entirely possible. I would not put it past any of these fuckers because, like, we know they operate that way.
Well, you want further proof? Anyone who's doubting what we're talking about here, just keep your eyes on Robert Kennedy. See what happens to him.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean,
like-
JFK Jr. Was up for the same New York Senate seat that Hillary Clinton was. They were running against each other when he had his accident.
Yep, I would. I hear this is based on nothing. So the views of Samael and the rest of the panels, are not dependent on what any BS that comes out of Last Call's mouth here. But I will say that I think the only reason that something hasn't already happened to Robert Kennedy is because right now the powers that be are trying to balance him out with Trump. Those two are the best insurance the other has. That's why they're both on this side of the grass.
I think there's probably something to that, and I think also he makes it look like they're not all loonies on the other side. He gives them a measure of credibility that they don't otherwise have.
Yeah, but
Isn't he running independent?
No, he's not.
No.
Although, see what happens between now and the next election, and that may determine whether or not he eventually leaves. But he's a lifelong Democrat. He's still in that mindset that the only way forward is through the Democratic Party. The problem is, and this would be the argument to what you were just saying, Samuel, is that the way he is being treated by the Democratic establishment directly refutes that. They are doing everything they can to Bernie him.
Sure. Yeah, there's that. I'm just not 100% sure that the whole thing's not theater. I mean, hell, it could be.
Can you expand on that? What do you mean by that?
So I think, like I said, I think that that RFK comes off as a reasonable man, especially for a Democrat, for the most part. If you look at his policies, if you look at how he votes and stuff, he's very much on the left. But he presents himself in a way that doesn't seem as crazy as, say, someone on the squad, someone like AOC, for example, who will straight up come out and talk about, or like Hillary Clinton did the other day, straight up come out and talk about fucking re-education camps.
I know. I mean, talk about friggin' blatant.
Yeah. So I think, and yes, the majority of the public left in the DNC, they're obviously coming out against this guy because he appears on the surface to be, anathema to what they're standing for and what they're trying to, pass into law and all that stuff. But he's really not, if you look at his policies, and they know that, so I am kind of wondering if he is there to present a reasonable alternative to people who would otherwise vote for Trump.
Well, but that all falls apart since they're not going to let him run. It's going to end up being, there isn't going to be a primary. It's going to be Biden. And that's all there is to it. I think what we got to do is we got to shift the paradigm of how we're looking at this thing. It's no longer right versus left, Republican versus Democrat. It's now status versus populists is what it really is.
I would say it's not status versus populists. I'd say it's aristocrats versus people who don't want to be peasants.
Well, that's the same thing. It really is. You're just putting a different label on exactly what I just said. You're right. You are right.
I did not realize that. Had I done that, I would not have.
Yeah, no. Think about that. The statists are your aristocrats, and the populists are the peasants.
Okay. Well, the people who don't want to be peasants.
Well,
I mean,
right.
here's a couple of other terms for it that mean exactly the same thing: the bourgeoisie and the proletariat.
Bingo.
I fucking hate
Bingo.
Marxists.
Everybody hates Marxists. Even Marxists hate Marxists. Why do you think that Nazi Germany went to war against the USSR?
I was gonna joke about China versus the USSR and Vietnam, but yeah, that also checks out.
You know, that's something that people don't talk about. Like right now, take Yaroslav Hunka, right? Recently applauded in the Canadian Parliament because somebody didn't fucking bother to Google his ass first. Except we find out from our friend green-haired anti-liberal that he had to go through a whole process even to be admitted into Canada, and it was entered into Parliament's records at that time years ago. So yes, they knew who he was. They knew he was a fucking Nazi. First of all,
Not just a Nazi, not just a
Oops.
card-carrying member of the National Socialist German Workers' Party, Waffen SS.
yes, we know. So
For
when
the
you
chat,
look
you
at
may
that,
not know that.
Yeah.
So what did they do? They applauded him for fighting against the Russians in World War II. When they didn't talk about was who the Russians were currently engaged against at that time,
Yeah.
which were the Nazis, right? They also don't talk about the fact because I also see a lot of people online going balls in for oh my God, Russia was the one who defeated the Nazis in World War II. Russia is the reason that we're all free of Nazi influence and all that stuff.
No.
And I'm like, you guys don't ever talk about the beginning of that war. You remember back when the USSR and Nazi Germany split Poland down the middle like a bagel, right?
Also, the fact that if it wasn't for U.S. arms, Russia wouldn't even have been able to take back its heartland.
So what
It's not just that. So they're
ahead.
downplaying the U.S. involvement. They're downplaying the other European allies' involvement. They're downplaying people around the world who were fighting up against this, and even China, who was fighting another Axis power, Japan at the time. In order to make this all like a all Russia bad or all Russia good. It was like, no, Russia's always kind of been on Russia's side. It's like
and it's really hypocritical to blame any country for looking out for themselves. I mean,
right.
It's ridiculous.
The other thing that they don't talk about is that these are Nazism, right? National Socialism versus communism stem from the same shit. Marx and Engels came up with this whole bullshit ideology, and then you know where fascism actually comes from, Shadow? Where the ideology actually originated?
I'm assuming some guy by the name of Gentile, because Boa put that in the chat. A student of Marx.
It was Mussolini.
Yep.
Oh.
Mussolini in Italy, and another
I hate to say it's an Italian invention.
Yeah.
I knew Mussolini was the one who defined fascism as like the state and everything within the state.
That's because he wrote the book on fascism.
Yeah, literally.
So what happened was he read the works of Marx and Engels, right? And he's like, hey, this seems like a good idea, but it's not going far enough. So he incorporated his ideas into what then became fascism. Hitler saw this and was just like, oh, hey, that's pretty cool. But again, not quite far enough. So he took it even further. But they all have the same granddaddy. Now, communism over here was doing its whole thing, and it was obviously much more rooted in basic Marxism. But the thing about socialists is that when they differ, they go to war with each other. They eat each other alive because they're like it's every bit as bad as you get with like different forms of Protestantism going at each other, or like the Catholics versus Protestants, and all of that infighting that happens there. The same shit happens anytime you get a shift in ideology.
Yeah, because Marxism is
religion. Because in Marxism is all or nothing. If there are 90 tenets and you believe in 89, you're the enemy.
Yeah,
you got to believe in all of them. That's why they fight each other so much here.
So what I'm getting
woke
at
versus not woke enough.
Right. So what I'm getting at is that the Nazis or the Russians were always going to turn on the other guy because they could not stand a competing socialist ideology. Right. But it was more, it served their purposes to remain allies at that time, which is, again, why I caution people against using the term allies when you're talking about fucking protest groups and shit. Because it's a temporary thing. Because the second that you're going to line, alliances dissolve. So my theory is that the reason that it happened so soon in the war, as opposed to later after Germany had, say, conquered Britain, because they were on the cusp of doing that. They opened up that second front because Hitler had lost his goddamn mind due to the syphilis raging in his brain. He started making a series of very ill-advised decisions towards the end there. And that's what led into the invasion of Russia. And that's what led Russia to change sides, to drop the Axis and side with the Allies. Never joined the Allies, but sided with them on this one issue.
Right.
Right.
Didn't
But they were
didn't
always going to turn against each other.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they also need like Russia's oil fields because like they were running out of oil, or is that like something to cover for the syphilis?
I mean, they said he had 4 balls too, man. There was a lot of stuff out there about the
I thought it was
guy.
only one.
No, he had 1 ball, but the rumor was that was spread by his people, by his propaganda. And you know, I think this was even used in a joke in a movie called Jojo Rabbit. But yes, this was a real rumor. It was like, it's said that Hitler only has 1 ball. This is of course not true. He has 4.
I think that'd
Right,
be
to
worse
make him
than only
seem
having
more
one
manly.
testicle.
So yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, they were always going to turn against each other, just like the woke is going to eat itself alive in this country. And we're seeing it happen already, but it's nowhere near to the degree that it will, because competing socialist ideals cannot coexist. This is the biggest reason that their utopia is a lie. Right there.
Yeah.
So
Even if they like worship the same individual, like look at the Maoists. When I was studying the rural history of China, like what immediately shocked me first was the fact that Mao was like, gods are fake, gods are not real, don't pray to gods. Here's my holy text, the Red Book of Mao. Read it, study it, define your life by it. And then you basically had gangs of people slaughtering each other and eating each other in the streets because the other gang of people didn't quote Mao correctly in one way or the other. Like, it's Marxism is a religion without any sense of morality beyond do as thou will for thyself.
No, it's do as the state wills for the state's self.
Well,
it's always about, yes, it is. When you boil it down, it always comes to serving the state over yourself to the detriment of yourself.
Right, but like the selling point of Marxism is the idea that you're entitled,
and that's what I'm saying. It's a lie. The whole thing is built on lies. You know, I've said this before. I believe that communism, like, you get all these people who are like, oh, well, it just hasn't worked properly before, or we just haven't implemented it correctly before. I disagree. I think it's worked exactly as intended, and that the people who perpetrate communism, who perpetrate socialism in this world and elsewhere, are liars, criminals, murderers, and thieves to a goddamn man.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But my main point is like not necessarily the intent behind it, but like what the average person believes. Because I don't remember who said it, but I remember like watching a video a few years back. Someone brought up of how like communism will never work because it educates entitlement. Like, even if the intent was to make a better society, it's never what can I do to improve society. It's what can society give to me to improve my own life. So when you have that mindset in life that everything will be given to me because I just exist, you'll become a very selfish, very evil person because of that. Even if the intent is
that explains the whole concept of race.
But again, look at how that has worked historically. Now, of course, you always get the people on the ground level, the brown shirts, the Antifas, the people who rise up, the people who say for the people, right? In my experience, by the way, anybody who goes around saying for the people or on the right side of history rarely are either.
Yeah, no, they're typically college-educated academics who have the money, or mommy and daddy have the money to send them to college.
Right, but as soon as they get their shit implemented, this is only true. Oh, well, we're all entitled. Oh, well, everybody's a special snowflake. Oh, well, we're all in this together. All of that shit is only fucking true until the communist ideals seize total control. After that, they don't even stop. They stop pretending about what the fuck they're about.
Yeah.
Right. You're useful idiots. Your slave class. They are they're put into the positions they were meant for. They become little worker bees, little drones and shit like that. And if they don't go along with that, they end up in the fucking mass graves.
Yeah, I think the funniest example of that is with Mao, how he was all about like the uplifting of women, which was howdy horny Alf. Which
Hey,
was,
Alf, what's up, buddy?
The uplifting of women was actually to like erase the concept of gender, basically turn everyone into like cogs in the machines. But he sold it as like we were uplifting women, we were making women equal to men. The motherfucker had a harem and changed the way inheritance law worked so that instead of inheriting, so it became a matriarchal inheritance, not because he respected women, but because he didn't want to have to deal with any of the bastard kids.
Well, that's true for pretty much all of these assholes who go out and invent a new little religion. I mean, look at L. Ron Hubbard. The whole reason he did that was so he could get out of paying his fucking taxes. That's why he lived on a boat.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but like that's my general point of like Mao is the best example because for me personally because I know more about him. But like it's all about pie in the sky. Here is your utopia and shit, and then boom, you're hit with the real life. And by the time you're like, oh, this is bad. There's a gun to the back of your head and a very, very zealous person to use it.
What happened down the road after he had seized total fucking control? The Great Leap Forward happened.
A lot of people
all those
died.
peasants who believed in what he was saying. 60 to 100 million people starved or shot in a 10-year span.
Or eaten alive, or died of some kind of infection due to the woman getting her ovaries ripped out, or they probably died constructing a smeltery in their backyard that would have never worked.
So quick, let me jump in here, guys. I wanna focus you on something and key in on what you guys are doing. You guys keep coming back to history, and you keep referencing things that have happened, and I want to bring it back to the Hunka, whatever that guy's name was that they were all cheering for in Canada. They were counting on the rewriting of history. They are counting on people's ignorance of history, and they are counting on being able to say, well, this guy fought against Russians and we're fighting against Russia, so everyone will get behind that. And sure enough, the ignorant masses, anti-Russia, not knowing their history. And thankfully, the upside to the darkness that is socialist media is it is the information age, and the truth does tend to get out, and people start going, wait a minute. Yeah, remember when Russia was on our side in World War II and we were fighting the Nazis? Yeah, that's who Russia was fighting against. It was the Nazis. This guy was a Nazi. And everyone starts going, oh.
No. They defended at first, going, well, like, look, you got to understand what being a Nazi meant at the time. He was probably conscripted. He was an officer in the death's
still trying to spin history.
No, exactly.
Exactly. It's again, it brings us back to, and I guess I just wanted to, in a small way, defend Samael, who, when I first came on, was saying, I know I sound a little racist. No, it's never racist to just simply cite history, Just saying,
Hey, Wookie, he's actually been on point today, so.
Yeah, no, this is
no, definitely. I'm here agreeing with it. They're not really arguing here. They're actually agreeing, and I'm kind of laser beaming in on the why they're both right.
Yeah. So to get a little bit more tinfoil hat conspiracy theory, a little bit on you guys again. Going back to the initial spark of the discussion, the events in Gaza.
Beaded glass.
Here's the thing. Brian, I get you, and I'm as far as I'm concerned, there are whole sections of the world that maybe we should just fucking glass over. But
honestly, it would make it would simplify things a little bit,
Yeah. But here's the thing. So Palestine is run by a criminal organization known as Hamas. Right?
Yeah.
Hamas is funded partially by certain Saudi princes, but mostly by the Iranians, by the Persians.
Mm-hmm.
The Persians have been in talks with and are in bed with the WEF. I wonder if this is not a deliberate thing in order to divert U.S. resources once again to split our focus between Ukraine and the Middle East, and coming up shortly between the Ukraine, Middle East, and Taiwan.
Wow.
Also,
I had not thought about that. I'll have to
Something
think
also-
about that.
sorry, Troy.
What
No.
resources? We don't have resources to give.
Oh, sure we do. We just
Actually,
keep
we
printing
do.
it. We just
No,
keep
we
printing it.
See, here's the thing.
Yeah, and then everybody's dollar goes down after that.
Well, not necessarily about that clue. So, yeah, I imagine a few people saw some articles a few months back about how the U.S. was running out of ammunition to send to Ukraine, about how we're almost out of stuff we can send. That's the reserves that we're allowed to give away. The U.S., there's a certain like supply of ammunition and weapons and stuff we are just not allowed. Like, that's wartime stockpile. We can't use that for training. We can't give that away. We can't sell that. We need that so we can fight a two-front war. What happens when, the generous and guilty American government decides, well, we're not using these weapons. We're never going to get into a war. Why don't we tap into those reserves and start giving them to the Israelis, to the Ukrainians? We still have resources to give. It's just we don't have anything we can give up that without major issues. And that's why they're starting all these issues.
Youth.
Conflicts. What?
We have the lives of our youth. That's the number one resource we're going to end up spending on this. We're going to end up losing a generation of young men and women at this point to somebody else's blood feud.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's going to suck. But also,
I'm not sounding so crazy now about the isolationism, am I?
No, absolutely not. And Sam,
I'm not sure who was disagreeing with you, Samuel.
Probably some Twitter bloke.
Definitely not me.
No,
but Sam, the point you brought up about Iran, this is something I heard. It's another thing that I probably needed to fact check before bringing it up. But apparently Russia was actually getting ready to kind of help Armenia in some way in the most recent offensive by Azerbaijan, and Iran told them to back the fuck off. So if that is the case, and the WEF and Iran are working together, or the Iranians are a puppet of the WEF,
it's not that simple, but yeah.
We won't really know what's going on until we can read the pages of history, and even then, that'll be bullshit. But now I'm very curious about what if that is part of the WEF's endgame. What do they want to do with Armenia if they've got a plan involved there?
Armenia is inconsequential. Honestly, it's inconsequential. Probably they're going to throw Armenia as a bone to the Turks to get them on their side, because the Turks have money, the Turks have wealth, and they have regional influence. But here's the thing. Okay, so you remember earlier this year they had that conference in, I want to say, Dubai, with all of those Arab delegates, and it was a WEF hosted conference. You remember that?
Not off the top of my head.
All right, so we had a bunch of guys in turbans and fucking robes cheering on the WEF plan. So here's the thing, right? They're not actually active members of the WEF. They see each other as allies for the time being. You also got places like China, Russia. I mean, Putin's not a good dude, right? Each of these powers, even the US, each of these powers wants to be the sole power, right? And a number of them are more than willing to get into the dirt with someone else who may not down the road prove to be an ally, as long as it gets them to where they want to go first. It's just like what I was talking about with Germany and Russia in World War II, right? They were allies because they had similar goals, but they were always eventually going to turn on each other, because the goal was to be the one and only victor standing over the ashes of the defeated. And that's the same thing that's going on here. The thing about Iran is Iran has money. Iran has nukes. What Iran does not have, outside of a regional sense, is influence and real power. They're absolutely a threat to their own citizens. They're absolutely a threat to their neighboring tiny ass little, indefensible countries. But in terms of world power, no, they're bitches. So what they're doing is they're allying with the WEF, who they recognize has significant influence, mostly due to political seeding throughout the Western countries. Now, Iran is always called the West the Great Satan, right? They've sought our absolute and utter destruction for as long as we've been a thing and they've been a thing.
They're still
They are,
salty about Thermopylae.
yeah, they're not on board with the WEF's agenda, because in the end that means that the WEF rules overall. They want to be the ones to rule overall. Eventually they will turn on each other, but for right now, it's more productive to work with them than against them. So yes, I absolutely have no doubt that the WEF might have said something to Iran, who then said something to Hamas. And Hamas has been itching to bury the Israelis for 70 fucking years. Well, for like 30 years. Hamas is relatively new, but the sentiment's been there. So that it didn't take much to push them in that direction.
Yeah. I also on Twitter, I don't know if this is a real video or not, like something that was shot a few years back, but there's a video of claiming that Hamas used a what looked to be some kind of like it's not a javelin, it doesn't look like a javelin, but like what a javelin does. Like how basically you point it at a target and the missile locks and then it fires. Ryan would probably know more about this than me, about like just how like common that is or uncommon that is, but from where I'm sitting, that seems like something that just some random terrorist organization should not have access to. That they would be willing to show off on video that they've got access to that.
Mm-hmm.
Like a guided missile. Shoulder-mounted guided missile.
Yeah, it's possible. But when you talk about these things like the, you're talking about things on a much smaller scale than I'm referring to here. Which is fine. I mean, because sometimes the devil is in the details.
Yeah. Well, for instance, if that's something that like, hey, that's not easy to acquire, that's like that. Like, if the specific one is like, say, U.S. arsenal, where would you find something like that? Looks at Afghanistan. Okay, who pulled out early of Afghanistan? Oh.
I mean, we did leave a bunch of fucking weapons just lying around in Afghanistan. It's not like those guys are going to make use of all of them.
Right, but that's like my point
to.
Is like we thought of that as like stupidity. Like, why would you leave behind that much supplies? Howdy, Orville. Howdy, Anna.
Hey, Anna, what's
what if
up?
that was part of like a longer term plan? Seed the region with those kinds of weapons, wait for some time to die down, get them to Hamas so Hamas can do this. I'm not familiar enough with modern weaponry to really say if that was like a U.S. made weapon or whatever it was. I think from just some Google images, I think it's a British one, but I may be wrong. But also, we may have been using some British made kit. Like, just
we know.
Yeah,
we know that some of the refugees that are pouring into Britain and to France, into Germany, into the northern countries in Europe, we know some of those guys do not have the best intentions, and I wager, there are probably quite a few, of the espionage variety who are there to smuggle shit back. I'm sure there's some of them are genuine refugees too, but look at what's happening. So. It is what it is. I guess my issue is just because I think Israel has also been looking for an excuse to exterminate Palestine. I don't think this is a one-sided thing.
Oh,
I think that they see them as an infestation, which is talk about it's funny coming from people who have always bitched about being dehumanized by everybody else, but whatever.
Well, actually, there's I'm not going to say who it is, but someone has in the past told me, like, just looking into like Hebrew writings and Jewish writings, and this is not every single Jewish person. This is not like Nomi said, she's Jewish. I like Nomi. Nomi's a really good person, but there are, if you look at certain like Jewish texts and certain like in Hebrew texts and stuff like that, there are various people of Hebrew descent who view all members of the tribe. Like, if you're not a part of the tribe, you are a lesser kind of human, kind of like social Darwinism. So I would fully believe that there are probably some people in Israel who subscribe to that doctrine and do believe that Palestine needs to be scrubbed from the earth. Not because it's a military threat, but because they are not of equal status in the eyes of God.
There are a number of prominent rabbis who espouse exactly that. They espouse wiping out everybody who's not them. This is a thing. And YouTube, by the way, no, I'm not saying all Jews are bad. I'm saying that, like every single group of people on earth, some are.
Yeah, like, again, Nomi's Jewish. I have no problems with Nomi. I've got a friend outside of this who is an Iraqi American of Jewish descent. I don't have an issue with him. He's one of my best friends.
No,
I
he's
have an
also
issue with the
Mexican.
specific people who are assholes.
You know, that's my point though. It's like she's part Jewish, she's part Spanish, she's part Native American. I mean, she's a mutt like almost everybody else on this continent.
Whoa. Whoa, the racism, bro.
He didn't say Irish mutt.
Bro, mutt.
You don't have the Irish part.
There was nothing racist about what I just said. You know, I mean, I'm a mutt. You know, I've got at least 4 different Native American tribes to greater or lesser degrees in my blood. I also have most of Western Europe.
I know, ladies and gentlemen, you really ought to see his face. It's wild looking.
I've just been told he looks like Vilgax. Like I've just been told he looks like Vilgax from Ben 10. Like that's how he's been.
I don't know who that is.
You should probably stop talking about it.
I don't know who that is.
I'll send you a picture.
Okay, yeah, send me DM me a picture on Twitter.
Sorry.
Hey, congratulations on getting back on Twitter. You know, I guess you didn't do
guys
anything.
I was innocent.
I mean, I didn't say I didn't believe you. I just
you were not guilty. You are not innocent.
I mean, yes, there is.
Okay, there's a good point.
It's only shades of guilt, but yeah, no, like they didn't even give a reason this time. Like in the past, like they've given a reason, like, hey, we're suspending you for a week because this tweet was insensitive, or hey, your account is gone because this tweet is kind of fucked up. This time it was just, hey, your account is suspended because you violated our guidelines. What guideline did I violate? Hey, message us to see what guideline you violated.
Yeah.
They never even told me why I was taken off, other than a bot got uppity.
You know, this may be a little bit of a side thing, but this is going to become a big problem for all of the social medias, and that includes, you know, the platforms we're on right now. And there is going to come a day where there will be a class action suit insisting there must be transparency, because without transparency, there is no way to determine whether or not they are applying their terms of service fairly to everyone.
All they have to do is enforce Section 230. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, make them, if you're going to be a platform, be a fucking platform, and then everybody who posts on that platform is liable for what you're going to be a fucking publisher and curate what people are saying, then you're liable. That's it. That's all they have to do.
Well, you also assume that what's his name? You also assume that Elon Musk actually, like, I do not try. He's wanting to, like, those brain chips he wants to make. Like, he comes off like a fairly intelligent person. Anyone
Neuralink?
with a shred of a brain, anyone with a shred of brain realizes where that fucking goes. Anyone, like, you sit down and think about the context of putting, like, look at the damage this has done. These things, look at the damage one of these that's not in your brain has done to America's youth. Imagine being able to upload that shit straight into your brain. Or,
I'll tell you
God
exactly where that
forbid,
goes.
someone uploads what they want into your brain without consent.
We're
like,
the board.
I do not fucking.
We will add
I heard
biological distinctiveness to our
There's a series. There's a series that goes into depth to what will happen if that goes through. It's called Black Mirror. Every episode tells you that's not a good idea. People are going to do it anyway.
Yeah. Richard, no, he got bitch slapped by a bot.
Yeah, no. My YouTube was fine. My YouTube's been growing. Yeah.
It's good for the kid. Well, that's the wrong one. Damn it. I did the laughing one. Sorry. I didn't mean to do the laughing.
No, it's fun.
It's
exactly UA. Exactly UA. New Who's take on the not that one, the other one. New Who's take on Cybermen.
I don't care about Doctor Who. No offense, UA. I know you're British and all, but I think the Borg is more relevant.
No, so there's in New Who, like when they brought it back, when they rebooted it with Eccleston, I believe, the Ninth Doctor, there was an episode where they reintroduced the Cybermen. And in that universe, the way they brought the Cybermen back was they basically gave everyone AirPods that you could use to tap into the network and, like, download information straight into your brain. The villain, the way he conquered the world was he just flipped a switch and everyone willingly walked into the factories that erased their existence, that erased what made them human. That, like, not to that same extent, but, like, once you give someone the ability to, like, upload information into your brain, while we also exist in a society that's actively trying to like get rid of the divides between like man and woman and this and that, and like turn us into an amorphous blob. And then they can also reinforce that by using what's in your brain. Like it's fucking terrifying for anyone who's consumed science fiction.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree on that front.
Again,
sorry that
like, so I'll admit that
stop
there's
reading
some
shit like
there,
this.
there's some yes, I'll admit there's something to what you're saying there. I think that's probably accurate to a degree. But again, I'm looking at the Borg, man. You're talking about a race of people who decided that the flesh wasn't perfect enough. So they augmented themselves until they became something else. And then they ran out of shit to consume and shit to add to themselves. So they branched out and started doing it to other people.
Yeah.
In other worlds and such, until they became what they did, which was an all-consuming force of soulless technology.
Yeah. Transhumanism in a nutshell.
Yeah. That's the problem with transhumanists is that they assume that the soul will exist after the fact. I don't think it will. I don't think it survives that.
Exactly. That's why you can't replace faith with science. Under science, it is perfectly okay to kill a fifth child because you don't have enough food for the other four. Under science, there is no reason that you should treat like the weak fairly because you can just toss them aside because they're just a detriment. Like that's exactly what happens when you erase the flesh. You erase the need for morality, and you become a cold machine that just does not give a flying fuck about life.
Even worse than that, a networked machine, meaning you are no longer an individual.
Yeah. Specifically, the problem is that I think a lot of true scientists that really believe in the scientific method will tell you that faith and science are not completely incompatible. The problem is that they're describing two different elements of life. And when you start to think you can combine the two, that's when you run into problems. That's where the transhumanists are right now. They think that just uploading your brain into a computer, you can live forever. And the more metaphysical are saying, you don't even understand what consciousness is, you arrogant effer, and you think you can digitize the soul? Let's be very careful. I believe as a scientist, there may come a day millions of years from now, or maybe even thousands of years from now, when we will understand science well enough to start wrestling with these kinds of things. But the thought of doing it now, when we're working with the equivalent of stone knives and bear skins, scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, it does. I don't think that that's entirely accurate, though, Troy. That mixing the two is necessarily a bad thing. I think that it has more to do with your approach and with your respect. You need a mutual respect for both faith and science. Otherwise, it doesn't work. But I think Einstein was correct because he was the one who first, to my knowledge, said outside of the alchemists anyway, said that faith and science are two sides of the same coin, separated by a perspective, and I think that there is something.
Disagree with that.
I don't know that I do. I think that just looking at let's take it back to a conversation that we had on last week's episode for just a second, talking about creation, right? And as most of you in chat know, I am not necessarily buying into there being an overarching, all-powerful creator. But if there was, logically thinking, which I have to do because I have a brain with which to do this, how I came by that brain, whether it was evolution or whether I was given it by a creator, doesn't matter because I have it and therefore I should use it. So logically thinking is that if there is in fact a creator of all things, then that creator would have to be a scientist of the highest order in all disciplines.
The other thing that I share with people, if you want to think, about the nature of God, you got to stop thinking as a human being. Humans are finite, and we tend to think very finite. If you're going to try to imagine God, you got to imagine someone who sees time infinitely. One of the arguments I got into with a Calvinist was, they're insisting on predetermination. God, has established what's going to happen and this is what's going to happen. I said, no, wait a minute. Just because God knows what's going to happen doesn't mean he is taken away free will and has determined it. He just sees what's going to happen and allows it to happen, you know? So it's just thinking on that that level. And I'm in no way arguing anything with you. I'm kind of augmenting what you're saying, Sam.
Yeah, no worries. But yeah, it just seems to me like, so if I were a god, right, and I were going to create a star or a sun, I would have to have an intimate knowledge of nuclear fission, would I not? Otherwise, the thing wouldn't work. You know?
Well, even before that, even before you create the star, you understand the absolute basics to create the universe in the first place. The way you know atoms are going to work, and you know, right from that Big Bang, you know.
Absolutely, you know, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. It's like, you know, I mean, to create Adam and Eve, you had to understand genetics, obviously, because we got to tell a whole discussion about why Adam was basically having children with himself on account of the whole rib thing. They share DNA, but in order for any of that to actually work, there has to be an understanding of like cell division, of genetics, of DNA, you know, all the things that make life happen. Right. So if there was a creator, he would have to be not a scientist, but the scientist. And I think that if you take a more rational, logical approach to things, you know, in terms of exploring faith, I think that it will make things make a lot more sense to you in the short term, at the very least, as we define things now. Because like if you just examine things on faith, like again, I keep coming back to the idea that I have a brain. One way or the other, I was given a brain, right? So I can't just accept that God said, let there be light, and there was light. There was probably a process to that I'm not understanding, you know? And so I do think in terms of like, and I think that's where a lot of people get confused and get it twisted. Is like, you got your atheist scientists on one hand who say like, oh, well, you know, this is magic, we can explain all this stuff. And then you got your religious people on the other side who are just like, oh, well, we just take it all on faith that it just happens because God wills it. And I think that the truth is probably somewhere in the middle, or possibly even outside of the argument altogether.
Well, I heard a theory from Dennis Prager saying that he thinks God doesn't know the future. You think he made an argument for you can still be omniscient and not know the future. Or maybe he knows everything except the future. So I've been thinking about that lately.
Well, if the future hasn't happened, that doesn't necessarily, you know, present a problem for me logically, because to be omniscient, you know all that is and all that was.
Right. That's what his argument was.
Yeah.
So he doesn't think God knows the future.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other argument that I hear from Christians, particularly Mormons, actually, about free will and about giving free will. Is that God already knows the decisions that you're going to make. Now, that isn't because your future is predetermined. It's because God knows you so well that he can predict, based on you, who you are and your pattern of decision making, the outcomes of your life. Within it, with a ridiculous degree of infinite accuracy.
Pretty good argument as well.
So I did want to speak to the one thing you were saying about the so-called religious people talking about, you know, behaving on faith. You know, we just accept it on faith because that's what we believe. You know what? Anytime I talk to a religious person who tells me that, I tell them, well, then maybe you should go back and read your Bible a little bit more closely. You know, start in Acts 26, right? When Paul is telling Agrippa, you know, these things are true and reasonable, and you know this. And Acts 17:11, where it says the Berean Jews were more noble of character than those in Thessalonica, because they received the message with great eagerness and examined the scriptures every day to see if what Paul said was true. I personally believe, reading those kinds of scriptures, that the God that created this universe is the kind of God you described there, Samael, that gave us brains, gave us the ability to understand logic, and doesn't want us to take anything just on faith, because that's how you get led astray. But take what you receive and then compare it. Compare it to the scripture, compare it to the world around you, compare it to what you already know, and decide for yourself what is true. Because then I could quote other scriptures to you where you're told, doesn't matter what some leader told you, you will be held accountable for what you do and what you decided.
And the faith without works is dead. So if you just have faith and you don't act on anything,
That's another absolutely excellent point, So, I think that there is something to be. Look, even before we had any kind of scripture, any, assuming you believe that it's God inspired, given to somebody to write down on stone tablets or something, before we had that, God would have inscribed on our DNA what he wanted us to know. Our ability to think, our ability to understand and rationalize. And when I read that we were created in God's image, I do not believe that the creator of this universe is a bipedal creature, with a gender and, 2 eyes and a mouth and any of that kind of stuff. What I do believe is the ability to think and reason and understand. That's how we were created in an inspired way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Are you familiar with Terry Pratchett or Discworld at all?
I have not read anything of it, but I know of Terry Pratchett.
Okay. I'm going to agree with one of the promotional, how they'll send out books to other authors or magazines to review it, and they'll say nice things about it or whatever. Usually they get paid to. One of them years ago said that Terry Pratchett is the kindest, most fascinating teacher you'll ever know. And the guy writes satirical fantasy and science fiction. And it's for a dude who claimed to be an atheist, he had remarkable insight into human nature and into the workings of everything, really. But one of the things that I always come back to when I think about being given a brain, not taking things necessarily on faith. And I think that faith is necessary, but I think that we need to back that up with a search for truth, for reality as well. But is that there's a race of dwarves in his Discworld who have a god that they refer to as Tak, who created them from the stone. And Tak has only one commandment. Tak does not require that you think of him, only that you think. And that has stayed with me.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, what is, and I'm not going back to Old Testament, but New Testament, how can you love God whom you don't see if you don't love your fellow human being whom you do see? And there's plenty of Christian scripture that cites whatever you did for the least of these, you've done to me. So God is saying less about, worshiping him so much as you show, your faith through your deeds in how you treat other people. I'd say a lot of religious people out there are totally missing that. And because they're so ready to wipe out the infidel without understanding.
I agree.
Zeal without wisdom.
I agree. Not Carrie. I agree, Troy. Actually, something really funny that will happen in college is people will be talking with me. I'll say something. They'll be like, "Wait, you're Christian?" Because they think that I'm some kind of Bible thumper. That I'm like, just because I'm probably more religious and zealous than your average person should be, that I'd also be like anti-homosexual. You can the Bible doesn't give you the right to hate your fellow man. You've got to support your fellow man, and that's what brings you closer to God in that sense.
Yeah, to be fair, a few minutes ago you were holding up a Bible and literally thumping it, but
that is true.
So
Also,
I don't know that that's an
never-
entirely unfair assessment.
I have never claimed I am not a hypocrite. I have claimed to not be
You should
many
do your
things.
best not to be.
I have claimed to be not many things. I've claimed I'm not a homosexual. I have claimed that I am not a socialist. I have claimed that I am not a porn star, but I am absolutely not a hypocrite. I mean, I am a hypocrite.
Jury's still out on that third.
And that's the that is off. That
You
is
don't know
another.
what you'll do at hard times. I'm just saying. No pun
That's true.
intended.
The one of the things you run into so often with people that want to lambaste the religious is, oh, well, you believe this, and you're a hypocrite because you are this way, and blah 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 blah. This whole holier than thou thing, and it's like, and true enough, there are plenty of holier than thou people who think they're above sin, but the truly the ones that truly get what Scripture says are the ones that say, no, I know this is wrong. I'm not saying I'm perfect and that and your sin is no worse than mine. I may not suffer with the same sin you do, but I have plenty of my own, and I'm not condemning you for it. Just the way Jesus said, is there anyone else here to condemn you? I won't condemn you either. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
and if by faith you believe that Christ was without sin and he doesn't even judge, then I sure as heck better not be judging, because I know I'm a sinner.
Yeah, exactly. One of the passages that has always stuck with me is do not comment upon the speck in another's eye before you tear the log out of your own.
Remove the log.
Remove, sorry. Because no matter with a person's imperfections, deep down in yourself, you are probably worse than them in a lot of ways as well. And that's why there are a lot of people that I hate. And that hatred is why I hate myself more than I can hate anyone else in this world.
Well, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret of life that it took me a long fucking time to learn, kid. Is that first of all, and I'm sure you already know this, and most people out there should know this. Love is not separate from hate. Love is not the opposite of hate. Love is simply another way of looking at it. Honestly, the opposite is indifference, which is much colder and much worse.
Yep.
Yes.
However,
love is positive, hate is
Yeah.
minus, and indifference is 0.
Hate, on the other hand, hate and love, both, those are choices.
Yeah.
They're always choices.
Hate means at least you still care.
Yeah. It means that you're invested.
And that's kind of what I say about, every time I talk about something, in entertainment, it's like, well, you just want to hate. Well, at least I still care. Because now I'm getting to the point where I don't care anymore. And people are talking about, for example, Ahsoka and all this. And I'm like, F if I care. I haven't watched a single episode of this. I don't care anymore. Right. I miss the days when I hated it.
Right. Real quick, Queen Lala asked a question. Can you believe in God any without believing in religion? I don't see why not.
Yeah.
I don't.
Larry.
The answer is yes.
Yeah.
Depends.
I don't see why not either.
Depends on how you define religion, because to some degree you can't, because of what I was just saying. You can't love God if you don't love the people around you, and you can't love the people around you if you don't come together, in some sort of community. Let
me clarify. She said believe. She didn't necessarily say anything about love. And the reason that I bring it up like that is because if I were to take the Christian perspective, right? So Lucifer's in hell, pouting, trying to weasel his way up here the whole time. Really not. Yeah, I mean, he's being Lucifer. Lucifer believes. He believes hard, but you don't see him going to fucking church, and you certainly don't see him getting down on his knees.
Yeah,
that's true.
At the end of the day, the religion piece is, you could classify religion itself as an ideology. The ideology's intent is to get you closer to God and to understand the scriptures of God. But you don't, for example, you don't need to be a Catholic to follow the teachings of God. You don't need to be a Protestant to follow the teachings of God. I have encountered people that do not subscribe to any particular Christian faith. They just believe that there is a God, that there is a heaven, and that if they believe in him and do as he commands, they will go to heaven.
Let me qualify that again.
Yeah.
So I'm not referring to like heaven necessarily, or even a specific way of viewing this sort of thing. Like as most of you know, I'm what you call a godless heathen. Now, godless does not in this case mean. Hold on, let me fucking explain myself, kid.
I'm sorry,
Jesus.
I'm sorry.
Godless in this case does not mean that I don't believe in gods. It simply means that I don't ascribe myself to any single one of them. I absolutely believe in the gods. I believe that all of the gods exist. I just don't believe that any one that we, as we understand them, is worthy of being worshipped. But that doesn't mean that I don't believe that they exist. It doesn't mean that I don't believe that they're there. As far as a creator goes, and I do draw a distinction there between gods and a creator. Um, it that may or may not be a thing. I have no fucking idea. I'm open to the possibility. You know, um, so I guess what I'm getting at is that yes, it's possible to believe in a god or gods without practicing a specific religion. I mean, you might be a member of a religion and not go. You might just be somebody who just believes that there's something out there. I mean, you go to AA, it's full of people who just believe in higher powers, or at least say they do to get through the day. But in a lot of cases, those guys are not religious at all. Um, and their faith in a lot of ways tends to ride that razor's edge. But yeah, I think it's absolutely possible to believe that you have been created by a being and placed here by a being for a purpose without ever stepping foot in a fucking religious organization. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense.
And just to speak to what is that Super Suka said, Jesus just bounced. Jesus trashed the church. I don't think he likes religion. I mean, not entirely wrong there. Matthew 15:3. And Jesus replied, "Why do you break the commands of God for the sake of your traditions?" He was constantly getting in the face of the religious authorities and saying, "Look, you've kind of wandered away, and I'm kind of here to point it out to you."
Yeah, Jesus. You could argue Jesus was one of the judges. I mean, if you go back, like the same thing happened with the Jews, whether they believed in God or not. Like, I mean, they ended up praying to him, so I imagine they still worshipped and remembered him. But when they turned to, say, the Baals or to the other gods of that region of the world, and God raised up Gideon and Samson and all that stuff, God is not necessarily anti, like Jesus was not anti-church in that instance. He was anti the way the church was being used. It's why it's why you had Martin Luther, for instance, where the Catholic Church had gone from being what it was intended to be, the organization that allowed people to know how to pray to God and to protect them from the various things that attempt to sway their faith, into a political institution that was more concerned about its own power than the faith of the people it was protecting. And then you had the Protestant Reformation. There was some more politics in there. One guy wanted a divorce.
It's always politics, kid.
96% of the time it's politics, 4% of the time it's legitimate.
I also Troy, I did see your chat in there about defining heathen. In this case, it's a term that I use because when I call myself a pagan, I usually have to explain exactly what type of paganism I ascribe to, and seeing as how it's a bit of a hodgepodge and not any one particular path, heathen is just easier for most people to understand.
That's
How
fair.
many people thought you were a hippie?
Less than you'd think. I'm not a pacifist, so yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that checks out. But until I met you, whenever I thought pagan, I thought either extinct faiths that don't have any practitioners, or
hippies aren't pagans, kid. They're druggies. There's a difference.
Yeah, they went to Woodstock.
Yeah.
They think their drugs are giving them a spiritual experience, but it's still just drug use.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, whatever keeps them safe and happy for when the tear gas and riot squad shows up. I don't really care.
Look, kid, the hippies were a form of counterculture. Counterculture always exists in society.
Yeah.
Before them it was the beatniks. After them it was the punk movement. That's just the way it is.
I've always argued that the reason a counterculture exists is because there's a pendulum effect. And just in my lifetime, whether I considered myself, independent, liberal, conservative, has swung based on how extreme the authority at the time happened to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So No, but no, hippies are not that. That was not a religious thing. That was a societal thing. It's yes, there was some ties in with communist ideals and whatnot. That's how you get those communes and all that stuff, who were just fine right up until everybody gets dysentery because they're using human shit to fucking fertilize their vegetables or whatever. But
Or they start killing each other because one guy's fucking all the attractive women.
yeah, it's usually never gets that far. The whole pacifism thing's kind of part and parcel with that.
Philosophy's great until it runs up against actual human nature and reality.
Thank you,
That's
Troy.
true.
Freaking thank you.
Uh,
I hate so many people at college because they don't apply realistic thinking to the world.
Right.
Thank you.
I guess my point, kid, is that that you have an even broader term for pagan than I do, and in some cases, it's inaccurate.
Okay.
Hippie was not hippies were not a religious thing in any way. Wiccans are pagans, so are Hindus.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying because
So-
you would have hippies claim to be pagan, and probably just so they can go, I'm not Christian, I'm a pagan. And
Yeah,
not
you got
really
a
know
lot
that.
of that with the goth movement in the 80s and 90s too. But
Aren't
it
goths
is
just
what it
vamp
is.
kids that drink coffee?
No, dumbass.
Wow.
How about the people that ascribe to the flying spaghetti monster? Are they pagan?
No, they're assholes.
They're commies.
True. That is
I
true,
commies.
actually.
I call them Scientologist light, personally.
No, it's not a real thing. That's a joke, and they all know it's a joke.
Yeah,
So,
they're specifically doing it just to piss off religious people. They're
It's mockery.
atheists that are just asshole atheists.
It's the
If I had
same thing.
nickel
It's the
for
same
every
reason.
time-
Hold
Sorry.
up. It's the same reason that Anton LaVey called his organization the Church of Satan. They're not actually devil worshippers. They did that because it pisses off the Christian right.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, I've if I had a nickel for each person that I've met that would say they're a Satanist, but they don't subscribe to actual Satanism, I'd have 2 nickels.
Well,
It's not a
here's-
lot. I
Your
hate my
definition of
generation.
Satanism is devil worship, correct?
Well, so I mean, you've got the church, the Satanic Temple, which is all about basically just fucking with Christians, and then you've got the actual Satanists that believe that shit, that actually believe in Baphomet
Okay,
and Moloch and
Again,
Pazuzu and
you
all the
are
others.
you are. First of all, Satanists don't worship Zeus. Those
Pazuzu.
are-
Pazuzu.
Oh, okay. Well, Pazuzu is minor
A
demon,
Mesopotamian
if you
demon,
know.
right?
Yeah, very, very minor, but yes. That one got famous because of The Exorcist.
And he got a bad rap. If you dig into the mythology, it completely warped the mythology of who Pazuzu was. That's a different topic, though.
I mean,
Yes,
same
it
with
is.
Beelzebub. Beelzebub wasn't Beelzebub originally a deity that you would pray to get rid of plague and then became associated with plague?
Kind of. So the prefix, the important part of that is the BEEL, which is a bastardization of BA''AL or Baal,
Bob.
which simply means Lord. It's not a name, it's a title. It has been applied in older versions of even Hebrew lore to their God, the God of Abraham, because it's
I
just
saw a
a
Metatron
title.
video on that.
That's all it means. Now, Zebub comes from Zebutha, which means of the flies. So Zebutha or Beelzebub is Lord of the Flies. It's a literal translation. And yes, initially it had to do with sanitary conditions and with keeping away plague and all that stuff. But I mean, they had a Baal for everybody, or a Baal for everybody.
Yeah.
There was one the Phoenicians worshipped called Baal Fagor, and that was only to a specific group of Phoenicians who were local to Mount Fagor, because he was the lord of that mountain.
Why do I know that name?
It doesn't matter. It's long time ago. But my point is that you have a and I don't want anybody to take this personally, but Christians have a tendency to lump everything outside of their worldview into one category, and that is not the case.
Yeah, no,
right? So when I hear
know
people
that.
talk about Satanists and demon worshipers and talk about we're gonna cast spell, these guys over here are casting spells and all that stuff, it's like, first of all, you don't understand what you're talking about any more than somebody who was born and raised worshiping pagan gods in the Amazon would understand the sacrament, right? You are outside of that experience. Secondly, certain things that get taken very seriously by Christians, like Baphomet, are not a thing and never were a thing. Baphomet was something that was created by the papacy to scare people into going to church.
Is that Baphomet, the goat guy?
Baphomet, it's French.
Okay, you're saying the French version, but that is no.
I'm saying that the name you don't pronounce the T, kid. Nobody pronounces the T but you.
I have only ever heard it pronounced Baphomet.
Then they've said it wrong.
You're the first person to say it as Baphomet.
How many pagans do you actually know?
That are legit pagans or claim to be pagan?
I know 3.
How many people shop at Target?
I mean, I don't shop at Target anymore. That's Target
you're
is
the only between lumping Satanists into this. You're the only person I know that actually is a pagan and isn't some edgy Zoomer trying to be cool.
Wow, that's because I actually learned about what I was talking about. Like you get with the Zoomers, they don't. Again, it's the same thing. You get the same thing with like young Christian kids too. They'll be like, oh, they'll latch on to a specific passage, right? And they'll be like, oh yeah, this is the be all and end all. I was like, maybe you should read everything around that for context before you start mouthing off.
Are you saying all Christian kids or just the ones you met?
I'm talking about Zoomers at the moment, but I have met a lot.
Just the Zoomers you met.
Look, I guarantee, Larry, that I have met more Christian kids than Shadow has met pagans, genuine pagans.
I'm not saying you didn't. I'm just asking. I'm saying, are you
that he knows
are you
about
blanketing all Zoomer kids?
Unlike a lot of other major religions, we don't advertise our status.
Okay.
The ones who do are fucking around.
Or they're semi.
Well, I'm open about it, but I don't go up to people on the street and be like, hey, how you doing? I'm a pagan. My pronouns are whatever the fuck.
Yes, you do.
I really don't, Larry. Shut up.
Well, you're in Wyoming, so I guess the next human being besides your brother between you and anybody else is about
50 miles away. I've been there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, every single one of them knows that you're a pagan.
There's 30,000 people in my town. Thank you very much.
And
they all have their own county.
Kinks of every single one of them. I'm pretty sure most of them know what your religion is.
Yeah. Well, again, I hesitate to use the word religion because I don't ascribe to a particular religious doctrine of any kind.
Your spiritual perspective upon the world stage.
Right. I'm just saying that sometimes the words that we use do in fact matter. Like the definitions do matter. And that's one of the reasons that I'm so against people going around and changing definitions of even basic shit. Like we're seeing a lot of today. Like, for example, recession. Changing definitions does not serve any purpose but to confuse people. That's all I'm saying.
Look, man, we've always been at war with Eurasia. Stop claiming that we were never at war with Eurasia and it was always East Asia, man. That's all I'm going to say. Well, Samuel's gone.
Cricket.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what the hell happened with that.
Oh, Ryan's still here. Yo, Ryan, how you doing, man?
Good. I don't know. Apparently, you're pissing everybody off again.
Yeah.
They pissed me off. Saying good shit.
If I remember right, the reason why you guys keep me around is I'm basically an edgy or lofty pixels, is how I remember being described, like in the early days.
Everybody wants to punch lofty pixels in the face.
What?
Everybody wants to punch lofty pixels in the face.
I can think of 3 people on this panel that probably want to punch me in the face.
I don't know. I don't know about that. We actually, here's the thing, kid. It's like we don't always agree about things, but you tend to be a lot more on point than Lofty does. And Lofty will say shit just to piss people off, whereas you genuinely stand by what you say.
Yeah, but there's probably a feline that's looking to punch him in the face tonight.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
based off of what he said yesterday.
What he
also has nothing to do with this.
What doesn't he do? What he always does.
It's not as bad as what Killa did last Saturday.
What'd you do?
I was pseudo intentionally picking a fight with Amira.
Oh God! Why?
Intentionally. So just intentionally.
Yeah.
Pseudo intentionally because I didn't think she was paying attention to the chat.
She's always paying attention.
Yeah.
And Amira is a patient assassin.
Yeah, I know.
She put you in the eternal naughty corner that she doesn't talk about.
Look, man,
Like
I've spent time in the naughty corner with Carrie. I think her secret naughty corner, like the secret special one, I don't think could be worse than that. No offense, Carrie.
You're gonna piss Carrie off now too.
Honestly, no. I think Carrie would take that as a compliment.
Well, maybe, especially after that meme that Kohai here. That meme
No,
Kohai here last night was.
Apparently, no. Like Kohai made a bunch of memes of Carrie, and he thinks they're all mid, and they're all actually, in my opinion, pretty decent.
What meme is this?
It's basically him getting anal raped by a deer.
Oh wow,
Oh,
that's
right. Yeah, we showed this last night.
Yeah,
This
and
is-
the look on the deer's face, like the deer, like it was determination, like he was determined to get every inch of that deer meat into his butt.
Jesus.
He calls that mid. He thinks that is mid. By the way, like I think that's freaking amazing. Personally,
That's a painting. That could be made into a painting.
You
All
know,
right, now
Carrie's
it's
a
only fair to
masterpiece.
show the cactus video.
Oh, that's not.
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna do that to him today.
or
I didn't even play Blue Raspberry today, despite the fact that it seems like
Right,
your
so-
mouth has been filled up, occupied, as opposed to talking on the conversation.
Hey, what can I say? The kids bring in some decent points until the last like 10 minutes where he started pissing you off. Like,
No,
and Troy, it's the first time he's been back, so
yeah,
sometimes it's nice to
yeah.
have new voices every once in a while. I don't have
Oh,
to
it
carry the
absolutely is.
fucking show all the time, Samuel.
Speaking of that, where's
Oh God.
I knew if I kept going, he'd piss him off, and he'd show it.
where's
Howdy,
the
Nutters.
green-haired lady?
She had something come up, and she was not
Yeah,
able to
she
make
had
it.
some other stuff to do. Same with
That's what
Nomi,
gall
unfortunately.
means.
And I don't want you to think that just because my wife just jumped into the chat that she's scaring me off, but we actually do have to get ready for another stream, and I got to get some chow before then, so I'm going to go ahead and bounce.
No
Well,
worries,
nobody,
no worries.
Yeah, nobody blames you, man.
Hey, thanks so much for having me though. It was great. And I was just starting to look at the news and everything and getting worked up, and it was actually a good therapeutic thing to be able to jump in here and get it all out, get it off my chest instead of doing something stupid like, keyboard warrioring and getting involved in, completely unproductive BS online,
Right.
Yeah, don't get banned on Twitter.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for
See you,
having
buddy.
me. You have a great one. Take care.
Yeah, you too.
Absolute
Thanks
Troy.
for coming, man.
Bye-bye.
Bye. When the stream is over, I will update the description to include everybody who is not currently in the description and their links who was on panel. Right now, I think that's Shadow and Troy. So I will be adding their links after we're done here. I'm obviously having some issues with my internet. So when I went silent there, that was not, I wasn't fuming. I was trying to get my goddamn shit to work.
Yeah, no, I honestly assumed it was like some kind of phone call or something.
No, it
Ryan
was
legitimately
it,
thought I pissed you off.
no, it was the internet and the microphone, and none of it wanted to work in tandem, and it just
God
it
put
is
you
what
in
it is.
timeout for 500 seconds.
That's fine. It's better than what YouTube's going to do to me.
Yeah. See, now if I was responding to him consistently on Twitter, that's what pisses him off.
Look, kid, it's not, I don't mind the conversation, but you have this awful tendency that you got to get that last word or that last jab in, and it gets fucking annoying after the 17th time that day. So, and sometimes it's okay. I'm just going to put this out there. It's okay sometimes to just like a tweet and not say anything.
Yeah. And I feel like I've gotten better at that. And then I spiraled because of some jackasses.
That's your own choice. No, it's your own choice. It's always your own choice.
I mean, the specific jackass I'm thinking of was going after Lily for liking the Cowboys, and that just pissed me off. So
Right, I know who you're
Hey,
talking
what's wrong with
about.
the Cowboys?
apparently
I don't know, it's
liking the
fucking
Cowboys
football.
makes you inferior or something. I don't fucking know. The guy was a nutcase.
The saying goes that only two things ever came out of Texas: steers and queers, and I don't see any horns on you.
Whoa.
Me?
That's
Okay,
where that
you're
comes from.
fired. Sam.
Look, that's what it's about. It's always been, that's always been aimed at the Cowboys. There's a long-standing thing about that. The only thing that people generally outside of Texas like about the Cowboys are the cheerleaders.
They're hot.
92, 93, and 95. Okay?
Yeah, I don't care.
Never
I don't follow
forget.
football.
Winners of the Super Bowl. Super Bowl
Never
champs.
forget.
92, 93, and 95.
Yeah, that was.
I
over
was a
30 years
kid
ago.
in Dallas when it happened.
So, but yeah, it is what it is. I don't know. I feel like this has been more or less therapeutic for most of us. And keep in mind, those in the chat and those on YouTube and anybody else who sees us down the road, we don't have a lot of solid information. We don't have any more solid information than anybody else does. So some of this, yeah, is speculation. Some of this is venting and getting shit off our chests and all that. So take it for what it is, And like I say in the disclaimer in the description, we're not experts on anything. We're just people talking, and that's okay. We don't have to be experts to have the conversations. I think we've been going for about 2.5 hours, 2:20, something like that. By the time we get through fucking outros, it's going to be after 2.5 hours. So we probably will end it here. But I think today's show has been a really good one. I think that we've been able to voice some things, some potential fears, and some, what have you. Just it's been good to kind of get shit off our chests collectively. And even if Ryan's sole contribution was beaded glass.
I'm very pro parking lot, and I know a great place.
Yeah, there we go.
And I think a lot of people in DC need to be lullabied.
I have to be honest. Like, this is one of the first times in quite a while that a topic actually really got under my skin, and I was really angry. Like, so no, it was kind of nice to have other people to help carry the conversation, because I don't feel like I was going to be very productive, to be quite honest.
Oh, that's fair. I get that. And like there's going to be times, I think, for everybody, you're just not going to be able to necessarily articulate because the feelings get in the way of the words sometimes, and sometimes it's better not to do this kind of thing immediately after something happens, because it gives you a chance to process it and to organize your thoughts. I guess the only reason we really dived into this, I did have some other topics and stuff, but is because this literally just happened, like
Yes.
today. So I'm just
Yes,
I was
yes,
a little
it
bit
did.
in shock myself, and I'm like, I got to get some shit off my chest. And so here we are. So I at least hope that the conversation at least seemed as productive as it felt to me, for everybody else. And I thank everybody for participating in it and showing up and all that stuff. So with that said, why don't we go around the horn a little bit and tell people where they can find us on the internet. We'll start with the kid who hasn't been here in some time, Shadow of Hawk.
Howdy, everyone. You can catch me over on Legion Talk for Game of Thrones Monday. We'll be doing Season 5, Episode 8, The Battle for Hardhome, which should be pretty dang good fun times. You can also catch me next week for FNR if there's not another scheduling conflict like there was this week. And then I'm going to try to start streaming again on my channel. It just depends on what days and times I've got available since I'm working again. So that's going to be fun. And then videos on topics I enjoy whenever I'm able to get those out. Feel free to check them out. Sam, am I in the description yet or no?
I said after the stream.
Okay, so for those of you in the VOD, check me out in the description down below. And yeah, that's it.
All right. Clue, where can people find you?
Hello, everybody. You can find me at on Twitter at the Clue Channel. Here on YouTube, Clue Channel. I remembered the number this time. Clue Channel 4705. Next week on FNR, Abyssal Musings and Screaming to the Void. And an occasional, if my schedule permits it, I'll be in the chat for Star Trek Engage.
Nice. Larry,
Yep.
what you got?
So, as I stated yesterday, you guys know I still got some stuff coming up on my channel. I had a setback due to some adulting I had to do this week, but it was good adulting. In the meantime, be sure to check out Abyssal Musings next week. It's gonna be a fun time. We have some funny games that we're gonna be playing. As we go further into October, and that's about it. Oh, you can also catch me in the chat tonight on the Lioness Exile channel.
Yep. Also, Larry's both of Larry's channel links are in the description. He's got a new channel. Plans coming up down the road by the end of this month. Should have some stuff rolling on there. So do go and support him there, please. Ryan.
No, absolutely. What Samuel said. Go support Larry there. His new channel is called Assless Chaps with Larry. I think you'll really like that. It's got
What? You've been keeping secrets.
You better hope his wife didn't hear you say that. She'll bury you alive.
Yeah, it has a link to Ryan's channel. It's called Wishful Thinking.
All right. Yeah. No. Tomorrow's going to be Star Trek Engage. But Samuel's going to be running the show on this one. I'll just get to pretend to be a panelist, which will be great. But it should be streamed on Samuel's, myself's, Alf's, a bunch of different channels. So you can catch us a lot of different places, but always check everybody's links in the description and subscribe to everybody's stuff, especially even here right now, obviously, because the kid's doing good stuff. His Game of Thrones streams, playing that game, is actually pretty awesome. So Bernie's a sexy time with Larry. Wow. Oh Jesus, that's funny. Okay, God, I lost my train.
Yeah, guys, just be sure to catch Burnaby on www.blackbuttocks.com.
What the fuck, man? That sounds like a real site, by the way.
It's Ryan's new channel next to his Wishful Thinking.
Yeah, is it? Well, it's where I go over.
You guys laugh, but you haven't heard Larry's Barry White impression.
Let's find the clue.
Why are we just saying everyone else has a porn channel? Like,
gone so far off the rails.
I didn't say he found you. I said he's looking for you.
This has gone so far off the rails, and I did it.
Sam, is your mother watching this stream?
Probably.
Yeah, this one wasn't as crude, so she might actually watch it all the way through until she gets to this last part, and then she's gonna be like, "And that was enough."
Which Sam and I are the only innocent people. Surprise!
Yeah.
Actually, Clue's innocent.
I know. What the fuck, man? You just forgot Clue? What was it? Racism? I forgot
Clue. He's got a nipple. He's got a nipple for his icon.
Oh, he does. Yeah. No, he doesn't have a little profile thing. So fuck, I'm so off. Tomorrow after that, Samuel and I will. You're on Get Ranked, right, Samuel?
Yeah, I'll be on Get Ranked tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, Samuel and I are both on a Get Ranked.
Get railed.
I mean, Dermy's going to be there, so it might as well be.
Of course, Dermy's jury. Freaking Dermy.
Make sure you blaze up your tentacles so you don't chafe.
We'll be on Get Ranked on Beelzebub, talking about Sylvester Stallone movies, which are the best ones, with Tom from Midnight's Edge. And then Monday night. Yeah, Monday night is Game of Thrones. Whichever fucking one the kid said, because I'm all fucked up now, so I'm done.
Yep. You are done. I'm going to call it there. All four of Ryan's channel links are in the description below. Just go sub to his shit and watch his stuff when it comes up. For my part, I am Samuel the Infamous. This is my channel, Samuel the Infamous. We do live streams throughout the weekend. Abyssal Musings on Fridays. This show, Screaming Into the Void, on Saturdays, and Star Trek Engage on Sundays, with a host of other people, where we have a very good time. And Ryan's right. I will be guesting on Beelzebub tomorrow after Star Trek Engage. And that should be interesting. You can also sometimes find me, if I have time throughout the week, jumping in on other people's channels. Mellow Mondays on the Renaissance Nerd on Monday, Late Night Mayhem on Dermy Wormy's channel on Tuesday, and FNR on Ryan's channel Legion Talk on Fridays. I also do some behind the scenes work and moderate, and am usually found in the chat of Linus Exiled whenever she goes live, along with my co-host Larry there. Yeah, we're all over the internet these days. We're branching out, metastasizing. So
yeah, that's probably the right word too.
Keep an eye out for all of us everywhere we go. And I would also like to add an addendum on here. I said this last night. If you guys in the chat, if anybody who comes along listening, you see this and you are not involved in the creator game, but you want to be, now is the fucking time. Now is the time to jump in on that, because you got the yes, the writer's strike just resolved, but the Actors Guild is making that difficult on everybody. We've got the late night idiots who came back onto network television, but guess what? It's been so long, we got used to not having them around. People aren't watching them.
I didn't know they were back.
They're watching people like us. We are the media.
Most people don't.
I didn't know who they are until people were complaining about them.
How long they been back?
Podcast.
About a week.
Like, I didn't know who they were. I didn't know who the fuck Jimmy Kimmel was.
Well, count your blessings. Dude's a fucking douchebag.
I
Anyway,
just know him because of Adam Carolla. I'm not a fan of him. I'm a fan of Adam.
right. But this is not about them. This is about us, and this is about people in this sphere and people in the creators game. If you want to do something like this, or if you want to make videos, or you want to make music and put it out there, or whatever, now is the fucking time. Strike while it's hot, because right now all eyes are off Hollywood. They're on us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they hate it.
Yes,
YouTube exploded after the last writer's strike. That's all I'm saying.
Yep. Real quick, do you want to answer that, Samuel, real fast?
Friday night's Royal Rumble. It's Ryan's Friday night show on Legion Talk,
which we unfortunately didn't do because I
looked for it and I couldn't find it.
No, we didn't do it because I got home super late. Several of them got home super late. It was a busy Friday, and we had to kind of call it. Most of us still got to work day jobs, so it's gonna happen every once in a while. We'll do the best we can for you guys, though.
Yep. That said, thank you to everybody on panel who showed up and had this conversation with me. I appreciate all of you. Thank you in the chat for being here and keeping us going. You're the reason we're here. I do appreciate you guys. Yeah, as far as everybody else goes, fuck them. We don't need them. Have a great night.
There you go.
Save your breath for screen.
Well, I say every day it's a getting closer to taking a bath with my fucking toaster.